Chapter 44. Su Qianxi looked up at him and saw he was looking at her as well. Suddenly, their eyes met. Li Xiqing's eyes were clouded with a layer of mist. Su Qianxi looked away, put down the chopsticks and said, "Nanny Rong, get me another pair of chopsticks." Li Xiqing had an inexplicable obsession with cleanliness. In Su Qianxi's previous lifetime, she had once eaten with him, and their chopsticks accidentally bumped into each other. He was furious on the spot. He said, "You want to eat my saliva that much?" "What?" Su Qianxi was shocked, not knowing what she had done wrong. However, he then said, "Unfortunately, I don't want to eat your saliva. It's dirty." Then he asked the maid to change the chopsticks. In order to prevent her saliva from dirtying him, Su Qianxi had cleverly taken the initiative. However, when Li Xiqing heard her words, he clenched the pure silver chopsticks in his hand. That originally cold and thin face, at this moment, looked like an ice sculpture. Even the temperature around him seemed to have dropped by a few degrees, and it was bone-chilling. Li Xiqing's change made Su Qianxi even more confused. "What's wrong?" "Ha!" Li Xiqing chuckled, which made Su Qianxi shiver. Just when she thought he was going to get angry, he just slammed the chopsticks down, got up, and left. This woman thought he was dirty. Good, very good. His tall figure quickly went up to the second floor, and the door to the master bedroom was slammed shut. Su Qianxi was puzzled and angry. This man was really unpredictable. Deciding to ignore this man, Su Qianxi continued to work hard. "Ma-am," Nanny Rong said, frowning worriedly. "Why is Mr. Li angry?" Su Qianxi was annoyed and sneered, "He's sick." Nanny Rong was speechless. Sighing, Nanny Rong said, "Mr. Li does have a stomach problem. He can't go hungry. Ma-am, can you ask him to come down for dinner?" "No, I'm not full yet." Su Qianxi was full of resentment. In her previous lifetime, she had been bullied by him all her life. In this lifetime, he wanted her to serve him. Dream on. After dinner, she went upstairs and found that the things in her bedroom had been emptied. Stunned, she turned around to look for Nanny Rong. It turned out that Nanny Rong thought she had put them in the wrong room, so she moved them all back to the master bedroom. Su Qianxi wanted to cry. However, she still walked to the door of the master bedroom and knocked. "Mr. Li," no response. However, it seemed that the arrogant Li Xiqing never locked the door. He was confident that no one would dare to barge into his room. She tried to open the door, and sure enough, it was not locked. When he entered the room, there was no one in it. Instead, the sound of running water came from the bathroom. "He is taking a bath." Su Qianxi breathed a sigh of relief and took the opportunity to move things back. After going back and forth several times, she had only moved half of it. She was already sweating and panting. When Li Xiqing came out, he saw her moving things around. His brows furrowed. "What are you doing?" "Move things." "To where?" Chapter 45. He had a strong and powerful upper body with well-defined 8-pack abs. His lower body was wrapped in a bath towel. His sexy and distinct mermaid lines were faintly discernible. His healthy and good-looking wheat-colored skin was slowly dripping with water. As he approached, Su Qianxi felt a gust of hot air approaching her. She suddenly felt even hotter, and her mouth became dry. Subconsciously stepping away, she took a step back and coughed. "Although we are married, we have only met twice and had dinner twice before. So, we do not know each other well enough. I think we need some time to get to know each other better." Li Xiqing looked at her little movement. His dark eyes were like a quiet pool that had not been disturbed for thousands of years. Flashing a little, he became calm again. As always, he was calm and mysterious. Seeing that he did not speak, Su Qianxi felt a bit nervous and said again, "So, I think it will be better if we sleep in separate rooms. You will be happy this way, won't you?" "Yes," Li Xiqing said quietly. His slightly curly hair was still dripping water, looking cool and sexy. Su Qianxi blushed. Hearing his quiet response, she suddenly felt relaxed. She was really afraid that he would not agree. After all, there were already more than one or two things that happened on a different track from his previous life. If this mysterious man was in a bad mood and refused her, there was nothing she could do. After all, they were legally married. Fortunately, he was still him. No matter how moody he was, he still hated her, right? Thinking of this, Su Qianxi felt relaxed and continued to move things. After half an hour, Su Qianxi finally finished and let out a sigh of relief. After a comfortable bath, when she came out again, it was after 8 p.m. However, there were 3 missed calls on her phone. It was Nanny Rong. Nanny Rong was a servant from the old house. She came to the villa to take care of their daily necessities. However, she had her own family, so she got off work at 7 p.m. When she called back, Nanny Rong's worried voice came through. "Ma, has he eaten?" "Well, I don't know." "How can you not know?" "Ma, his stomach is not good. If he does not eat well, his stomach will hurt." "Madam, you'd better cook something for sir. It's not good if he's hungry." "Madam." She frowned. "I know. I really owe him." With that, he hung up the phone. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. After drying his hair, he slowly walked to the kitchen. He opened the fridge, grabbed a few simple ingredients, and cooked a bowl of noodles. 10 minutes later, she walked to the master bedroom and knocked on the door. "Mr. Li." No one responded. He opened the door and went in. The room was empty. Not here. She immediately thought of another place, the study. Occasionally, Li Xiqing would take his unfinished work home to do. But every time, he would only bring it back in order to deal with the elders. If there were no elders, he would rather work overtime in the company than come home. Thinking of how busy he was in his previous life, the possibility of him working in the study was very high. With a fluke, she took the tray to the door of the study and knocked. "Mr. Li." Through the door, Su Qianxi could hear the voices inside. They must be talking on the phone. She stopped and stood at the door. When she was about to knock again, the door was open from the inside. However, the door of the study was facing the outside. Chapter 46. Su Qianxi exclaimed and took a step back. However, the soup had already flowed down the sides of the tray. The boiling hot soup flowed down from her lower abdomen, leaving a large trail in front of her thin silk nightgown. Su Qianxi gasped in pain and took the tray a little further away from him. Li Xiqing did not expect her to have such a dangerous thing in her hand. He was dazed for a second but quickly realized what was going on. He took the tray from her and looked at the mark on her body. It was summer. In order to keep cool, she was wearing a silk nightgown, which was very thin and refreshing. The water stain happened to be on her belly, clearly reflecting the curve of her mermaid line and panties. Yes, a powder blue nightgown and a powder blue panties. He glanced at it and suddenly felt uncomfortable. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you okay?" Su Qianxi's eyes were red. She gave him a stare and said, "Why don't you try getting burned by the freshly cooked noodles?" Li Xiqing looked at the noodles on the tray that had half of the soup spilled on it. His frown relaxed a little. "You cooked it for me." It was Nanny Rong. Su Qianxi lifted her nightgown and felt the heat on her body. She felt wronged. Nanny Roan called me and asked me to cook noodles for you. Li Xiqing heard that and his eyes darkened. His lips seemed to curl up slightly. His voice was calm and steady. I didn't expect Nanny Roan to be so open-minded. Su Qianxi was dazed. It took her a long time to understand. Blushing, she was speechless. Inexplicably, seeing her like that, Li Xiqing's bad mood suddenly lightened. Holding the tray in one hand, he grabbed her arm with the other and said, "Let's go. I'll apply the medicine for you." Apply medicine. Su Qianxi glanced at her lower abdomen, which was still burning, but she was wearing a dress. And a super thin silk dress. If he wanted to apply medicine, he would have to lift it up. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but think of the magnificent scene she saw that morning and blushed even more. She quickly withdrew her hand and said, "No, you go eat the noodles first. Just some soup spilled. The noodles can still be eaten. I will wash them myself." "No." Li Xiqing's voice was firm. "I did it, and I will take responsibility." His black eyes were cold and filled with indescribable seriousness. For some reason, Su Qianxi was pulled away without saying anything. When she realized it, she was already sitting on the sofa in the living room. Li Xiqing put the noodles on the table and brought over a medicine box. Su Qianxi's face suddenly turned red. She quickly stood up and grabbed the medicine box, saying, I can do it myself. You go eat first. Don't be hungry. Sit down." The dignified voice seemed to come from the authority of a king, and it did not allow for the slightest disagreement. She still wanted to say something, but he suddenly reached out and held her hand. His rough and large hands were scorching hot. Li Xiqing's other hand was on her shoulder, pushing her onto the sofa. Immediately, his whole body was pressed against her. Chapter 47. Li Xiqing saw that his little wife had become obedient, and there was an imperceptible smile in his eyes. His face was still cold and calm. Looking down, Su Qianxi's lips were slightly open, as if she was a little scared, looking at him. Seductive. Li Xiqing suppressed the small flame that was suddenly ignited and whispered with satisfaction, "That's right. Behave." His voice was magnetic, with indescribable seduction, as if a feather was gently tickling her ear. Su Qianxi felt aroused and immediately had goosebumps. This man was really a monster. Li Xiqing straightened up and looked at the little woman who had been forced to the corner of the sofa. Looking down, he slowly took out the ointment. "Lift it up." Su Qianxi's head was buzzing. Blushing, she suddenly got up and reached for the ointment in his hand, yelling, "I'll do it myself." Li Xiqing was 188 centimeters, and she was only 165 centimeters. Even if she jumped over from the sofa, she was destined to be oppressed in terms of height. He just stepped back slightly, and she did not even touch his hand. Instead, she fell into his chest. Hot. That was the first thought she had when she jumped in. Pain. That was all Su Qianxi could feel. Too hard. Rubbing her sore nose, she was almost in tears. Just where she could not see, Li Xiqing's indifferent lips slightly curled. It was extremely small, and in a moment, it disappeared. He slightly bowed his head, his eyes deep. "Throw yourself at me." "Ha!" Su Qianxi perked up and quickly stepped back. "Oh my God, who threw herself into his arms?" Li Xiqing's eyes fell back to her belly and repeated, "Lift it up." "No, I'll help you apply the ointment." Su Qianxi blushed like a monkey's butt. When she was thinking about what to say to refuse him, his big hand was already in front of her. Without saying anything, he lifted her nightgown. She yelped and tried to put her hands on it, but he forced her hands away. Let go. I'll apply the ointment. I'll do it myself, you help me cook noodles, and I'll help you apply the ointment. It's fair. No need. You can go eat noodles. Let go. Li Xiqing sounded a bit displeased. Don't challenge my patience. Su Qianxi's heart tightened, and eventually, she let go. Forget it. It's just applying medicine. I've already seen everything I need to see. It doesn't matter if I do it again. This man was terrifyingly stubborn. Once he decided on something, it was really hard to change. She knew his temper very well, pursed her lips and lifted her dress slightly. Li Xiqing dipped his forearm in water and gently wiped it on his smooth, white belly. The movement was very light. She did not feel any pain, but it was very itchy. She bit her lip, fearing that she would laugh out loud. He wiped it with water, unscrewed the ointment, and applied it slightly. An ice-cold feeling spread to his lower abdomen, as well as those alluring little nipples. Su Qianxi narrowed her eyes and leaned on the sofa, trembling. It was really itchy. However, there was an inexplicable feeling, slowly burning from her lower abdomen, making her immersed in that feeling. Li Xiqing clearly noticed the change in her. There was a trace of darkness in his eyes. He recalled the taste of that night and subconsciously licked his lips. Chapter 48. Applying medicine was a kind of torment for both of them. However, during the whole process, no one said they wanted to end it first. However, the atmosphere and the surroundings had slowly changed. 5 minutes later, Li Xiqing was finally done, but he already felt a little uncomfortable. Licking his lips, Li Xiqing's eyes slid down from her belly. Powder blue panties, a mysterious inverted triangle. Closing his eyes, Li Xiqing forced himself to look away and began to organize the utensils. However, his movements had sped up a little, and were no longer as slow as before. Su Qianxi felt that he had stopped applying the ointment. She quickly pulled down her dress and got up, blushing. Thank you. I'm going to bed. Wait. A cold and deep voice stopped her. Su Qianxi paused and did not dare to look back. She involuntarily squeezed her legs. What? What's wrong? Her voice was a bit stuttering, and she couldn't tell how nervous she was. He couldn't have, was he going to do that with her? They were legally married. If he asked, how could she say no? Was she on her period? But, he had just seen everything, don't wash it. Su Qianxi blushed even more. So embarrassing, okay. She answered and ran up to the second floor as if she was escaping. Slamming the door shut, she leaned against the door and found that her face was burning as if she had a fever. Throwing herself on the bed, she yelled in annoyance. So embarrassing, so embarrassing. However, didn't he say that she could not like him? She burrowed into the blanket. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl under it. Her heart was beating so fast that she could not control it. Su Qianxi, what happened to your promise? What happened to your principles? Don't have any feelings for him, do you hear me? However, how was that possible? Watching her running away, Li Xiqing felt his Adam's apple tighten, and his body tensed up. Strange, why was he so thirsty? Walking to the kitchen, he poured himself a large glass of ice water. Looking at the utensils that had just been used, he couldn't help thinking of that sentence, I'll cook for you. A pair of flustered eyes and a shy face seemed to appear in front of him. Li Xiqing drank more water, and his eyes became darker and darker. Early in the morning, Li Xiqing had disappeared. Su Qianxi changed her clothes and saw a dozen missed calls. Among them, 8 were from Tang Menjing, and the other 2 were from unknown numbers. Ignoring them, he opened Weibo. The Lu Ainan incident had become a hot topic on Weibo overnight. Curling her lips, Su Qianxi seemed to be able to foresee how chaotic the Tang and Lu families were right now. The phone suddenly vibrated again, and a melodious ringtone sounded. It was Mrs. Li. "Mom. Where are you?" Mrs. Li's voice sounded a little angry. It was obvious that something had happened. "In the villa. What's wrong?" "I heard that you are defaming Lu Ainin on the internet." Su Qianxi sneered inwardly, knowing that Tang Menjing would not stop. Chapter 49. A lot of things about Lu Ainin have been exposed by hackers and posted on the internet. Now her reputation is completely ruined. Did you do it? Of course, Su Qianxi already knew. However, hearing Mrs. Li's words, she pretended not to know and said, "Mom, if I could do that, I would not have been bullied so badly in the mall." The video of Lu Ainin in the mall was a hot topic. Mrs. Li had always been well informed, so she must have seen it. Sure enough, Mrs. Li was silent for a moment and said, "Good. Although Lu Ainin's family name is Lu, she has the Tang family behind her. Try not to mess with her." "I know. Although I am not happy about it, I know what I am doing. However, Lu Ainin is so arrogant. I am not the only one she has offended. Well, no matter what, the Li family cannot get involved. You are now the daughter-in-law of the Li family, so do not be reckless." "I understand. Okay. Tell Li Xiqing to come home more often." "Okay." After hanging up, Su Qianxi's phone rang again before she put it down. It was a strange number. Recently, she had been very busy. "Is this Su Qianxi?" A soft voice came. Hearing the voice, Su Qianxi knew it was a woman who looked gentle and weak. However, that was all. "Yes, who is this?" Su Qianxi pretended not to know. "I am Wanting, your good friend in high school. Don't you remember me?" Oh, Su Qianxi suddenly understood. "It's you. What's up?" Hearing Su Qianxi's cold tone, the person on the other side of the phone was silent. Obviously, she did not expect such a reaction. In the past, Su Qianxi's desire for friends had reached a crazy level. No matter what kind of relationship you had, as long as you made her feel that you treated her as a friend, she would definitely be nice to you. In just 2 years, she had changed so much. Sure enough, things were different when she was on the top. Lin Wanting squeezed the phone and tried to sound gentle. She said, "Fu Lingbing told me that you will come to the reunion, but I do not know what to wear. Shall we go shopping? Let's meet up. We haven't seen each other in a long time." In her previous lifetime, Su Qianxi was confused by Lin Wanting's friend and went out with her without hesitation. Su Qianxi gave her a dress from a luxury brand, but she was given an old-fashioned dark-colored evening dress. That night, Lin Wanting was like a weird Snow White, and Su Qianxi, with her clothes, was the natural poison queen. Lin Wanting said, "Look, does my dress look good?" Su Qianxi gave it to me. "It costs more than 100,000. Lu Ainin had already been in cahoots with her, telling everyone that Su Qianxi was a sugar baby. After all, who would have thought that a person who had nothing before would suddenly marry the national prince charming of Kingstown? Su Qianxi found it hard to defend herself. In addition, her temper was too impetuous at the time. In the case of extreme anger, she smashed things randomly and was pointed at by everyone. However, he did not know that Lu Ainin and Tang Menjing had already predicted that he would end up like this. Chapter 50. Did she hate him? Of course, she did. However, if she could do it all over again, she would not be tricked by these people again. Su Qianxi. Lin Wanting could not help calling out when she did not get an answer. Sure. When? Hearing Su Qianxi's answer, Lin Wanting was overjoyed and asked, let's do it today, shall we? Great. Let's go to Imperial Star Mall. There are more things there. Great. Lin Wanting's eyes lit up. Imperial Star Mall was a famous luxury mall in Kingstown. Even buying a loaf of bread there would be a lot of pride. Hearing Su Qianxi's words, Lin Wanting was more than happy. Anyway, with Su Qianxi's personality, as long as Lin Wanting acted pitiful, Su Qianxi would definitely give her what she wanted, right? Lin Wanting hung up the phone happily and put on makeup before going out. When she arrived at Imperial Star Mall, it was already more than 10 minutes later. Lin Wanting stood under the trees for about 10 minutes, sweating and feeling uncomfortable. However, Su Qianxi did not call her. Lin Wanting was a bit annoyed and called Su Qianxi. "Why are you not here yet?" Su Qianxi seemed very surprised. "Now? I thought it was afternoon. I haven't gone out yet." "No way. Don't you always go out as soon as you have a date?" Lin Wanting felt that she had been tricked and was a bit angry. Su Qianxi responded slowly and said, "I have been suffering from procrastination recently. Sorry. Go find a place to sit. I will be there in 20 minutes. He impatiently walked into a coffee shop, ordered a cup of the most expensive fruit juice, and sat down to wait. Anyway, Su Qianxi, that idiot, would definitely pay for it. 20 minutes later, Su Qianxi called as expected. Feeling relieved, Lu Anand picked up the phone. "Hey, I am in the coffee shop. Come on in." "Coffee shop? It is too far. I will not go there. You can come directly into the mall." When Lin Wanting heard this, she was a bit anxious. "But, don't you want to have a drink first before going shopping?" "No need. Why do you want to drink? Come here quickly. I'm at the XX counter in the mall." Lin Wanting gritted her teeth and hung up the phone, paying the bill herself. The most expensive glass of juice here was equivalent to 2 or 3 days of her expenses. Su Qianxi, that B*TCH, did not even come, making her spend so much money for nothing. "Forget it, I'll definitely rip her off later." When they walked in, Lin Wanting almost recognized Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi used to be beautiful and the most popular girl in high school. However, her entire temperament was that of a hooligan girl with a bit of a mischievous air. And now, Su Qianxi looked at the skincare products on the counter and smiled at the salesperson's promotion. Lin Wanting could not help but be attracted to her when she saw her from the side. The person in front of him had a transcendent temperament. She was elegant and refined. She was dressed nobly but not old-fashioned. She was full of vigor but elegant. Especially the things that she was wearing, any one of them was worth several months of her living expenses, or even more. Originally, she did not believe it when they said that Su Qianxi married the Prince Charming of Kingstown, but now it seemed that it was almost true. Chapter 51. Su Qianxi seemed to feel her gaze and turned to look at her. Her eyes fell on Su Qianxi. However, when she saw what Lin Wanting was wearing, she frowned. He did not speak, but Lin Wanting could clearly feel his disgust for her. Lin Wanting's face suddenly became hot. She suddenly felt like an ugly duckling in front of a real white swan and had nowhere to hide. "Wanting, you're here." Su Qianxi smiled brightly, as if it was not her who had just looked at her with disdain. Lin Wanting forced a smile and said, "Yes, here, try this eye cream for me. I don't know how to use it and have never used it before." Hearing that, Lin Wanting felt a lot better. No matter how high she climbed, she would still be a chicken. "It can't be. You haven't even used eye cream before." His tone seemed to be a little disgusted. Su Qianxi had expected that. Although Lin Wanting looked gentle, she was actually even more narrow-minded than Lu Ainin. As long as Su Qianxi caught her, she would never let go of a chance to push Su Qianxi away. Lin Wanting walked over and took the eye cream from Su Qianxi's hand, feeling shocked. This brand of eye cream was notoriously expensive. Su Qianxi was looking at their latest product, which was even more expensive. Holding it in her hand, Su Qianxi could not hold back her love. She tried it on her hand and applied it again and again. Her actions made the salesperson frown. She reached out and took the eye cream back. She said, "Miss, this eye cream is very expensive." Lin Wanting stared at the salesgirl and said, "Expensive? You don't want me to try it?" Su Qianxi quickly stopped her and said, "Forget it." Then she looked at the salesgirl and said, "Give me one." The salesgirl's attitude towards Su Qianxi was obviously much better. "Okay, please wait a moment. I want one too. How dare you look down on me?" Lin Wanting was a bit angry. The salesperson looked doubtful, but she still took one more and wrapped it up. Lin Wanting was just venting her anger. However, when she saw the price, she was immediately shocked. She counted in her heart, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and eye cream cost more than 10,000 yuan. Lin Wanting was a bit scared, but thinking that Su Qianxi was with her, she relaxed a lot and said, "Su Qianxi, you pay the bill too. I don't have any cash on me right now." "It doesn't matter. I also pay by card." She smiled and took out the black card that he had given her. Seeing this card, Lin Wanting felt even more upset. Back then, which aspect of Su Qianxi was better than her? It had only been 2 short years since they last met, but he had actually been left so far behind. The shop assistant took the card and quickly swiped it for her. Looking at Lin Wanting, she asked, "Miss, don't tell me you didn't even bring your card." When Lin Wanting heard the salesgirl's words, her heart tightened. She gritted her teeth and sneered, "Who said that?" Then, she took out her credit card from her purse. Seeing the salesgirl swipe her credit card, Lin Wanting's heart was bleeding. However, an accident happened. The credit limit is not enough. "Miss, do you have any other cards?" Inexplicably, Lin Wanting was relieved. "Forget it, it's better to lose face than to lose money." 10,000 yuan was her living expenses for 4 to 5 months. Chapter 52. That's fine. Just buy mine. Lin Wanting smiled brighter and nodded. "Okay, thank you, Su Qianxi." "You're welcome. We are friends." Su Qianxi smiled calmly, but her eyes darkened. She swiped her card to pay the bill and began to shop in the mall with the eye cream. Holding the eye cream in her hand, Lin Wanting felt that the hundreds of dollars she had just lost in the coffee shop had come back. The feeling of having Su Qianxi in the palm of her hand came back. She knew that Su Qianxi would definitely give it to her. In high school, when Su Qianxi was poor, Su Qianxi and Lu Ainin would give her all her money as long as Lin Wanting and Lu Ainin coaxed her. Lin Wanting was thinking about how to get Su Qianxi to give her a dress when she was shopping. She knew that any dress here cost at least 100 or 200,000. If she could get a dress from Su Qianxi, this trip would not be in vain. Thinking about it, Lin Wanting put her arm around Su Qianxi's arm and tried to get close to her. The status of Star King Mall was very special in Kingstown. Well, it was very expensive. Su Qianxi knew what Lin Wanting was thinking, but she did not show it on her face. As they walked, Su Qianxi, accidentally, took Lin Wanting to a luxury store that Tang Menji liked to take her to in her previous lifetime. The clothes here were not only expensive, but more importantly, mature. Su Qianxi had a pile of clothes in her closet, all of which were of this brand. They were dark, elegant, mature, but also old. When Lin Wanting saw this store, the only feeling she had was that it was luxurious. Luxurious evening dresses were placed in the window. The long skirts were elegant and beautiful. So beautiful. Lin Wanting's eyes lit up. Su Qianxi saw her reaction and smiled. She had the same reaction when she first saw it. While marveling at the beauty, she did not care if the clothes were suitable for her age or temperament. She almost bought whatever Tang Menjing pointed at. Lin Wanting was exactly the same as Su Qianxi when she was young. Su Qianxi seemed to see herself in Lin Wanting. Ignorance, poverty, and temperament were incompatible with the atmosphere here. Before Su Qianxi said anything, Lin Wanting had already entered the store. When Lin Wanting walked in, the salesperson did not do anything. However, when she saw Su Qianxi, someone immediately came up to her. Lin Wanting quickly picked a beautiful black dress. It was luxurious and expensive. When she tried it on, she couldn't help but turn around in the mirror and smile brightly. "Does it look good?" She nodded. "Yes." He looked old. She was originally 20 years old, but the clothes made her look like she was 30 years old. However, that was exactly what Su Qianxi wanted. He had caused her so much trouble in her previous life. How could she not collect some interest in this life? The salesperson behind her quickly greeted her and praised her, which made Lin Wanting happy and happy. "If you like it, then buy it." Lin Wanting really likes it. This kind of texture, this kind of style, she has never seen such luxury and beauty. Before this, she did not even dare to imagine that she could wear this kind of dress. The salesperson was sharp-eyed and immediately came up to say a lot. However, when she heard the last sentence, Lin Wanting was startled. Chapter 53. 288,888. Jesus. Lin Wanting had never seen so much money in her life. The price of this dress was probably more than what she had spent over the years. What should she do? She liked it so much. Lin Wanting looked at Su Qianxi, who had been silent and smiling, and asked, "Su Qianxi, do you think it looks good?" "Not bad." "Then, should we buy it?" "If you like it, then." "It's not expensive, only about 200,000 yuan." Su Qianxi curled her lips, as if 200,000 yuan was nothing. For her, it was indeed not expensive. To show her respect, the Su family had given her a lot of jewelry, clothes, and real estate as her dowry, which was worth nearly 10 million yuan. Together with the red envelopes given by the elders of the Li family, all the money went into her own pocket. Not to mention that, the card Li Xiqing had given her was enough for her to spend for a long time. In her previous lifetime, she had been tricked by Tang Menjing into investing and lost tens of millions of yuan. Thinking of that, Su Qianxi's eyes became cold. Lin Wanting felt a bit awkward and said, "I did not bring that much money when I left today." "You can also pay by credit card here," the salesgirl kindly reminded Su Qianxi in a weird tone. "Yes, please." Su Qianxi pretended that she did not understand. Lin Wanting became even more anxious and pinched the skirt, but the salesgirl slapped her hand away and said, "Don't do that. You can easily cause problems. This material is very expensive." The salesgirl's words made Lin Wanting feel even more embarrassed. Although she liked to take advantage of others, she was not as thick-skinned as Lu Ainin. Hearing the salesgirl's obvious sarcasm, she immediately blushed. "Su Qianxi, how about you give it to me as a gift? It's only 200,000 yuan. Your husband is Li Xiqing, and you are not short of money, right? Mrs. Li." Hearing Lin Wanting's words, the salesgirl's eyes lit up and she said, "I was wondering why she looked so familiar. It turns out that you are Mrs. Li." "Yes, I also feel familiar." I did not expect you to look so much better in person. That was exactly what Lin wanted. After all, Li Xiqing was also a famous person. No matter what, Su Qianxi could not refuse him. Otherwise, if she ended up being stingy, not only would she lose face, but also Li Xiqing's. Lin looked at Su Qianxi and smiled. Su Qianxi, how are you? Su Qianxi frowned and said, so it was you who asked me out. He didn't need to say what he was going to say next. Anyone with a brain could imagine what he was going to say next. One of the salespeople sneered. No wonder Mrs. Li was taken for a fool. Lin hated this kind of words the most, so she angrily said, what nonsense are you talking about? It's fine, it's fine. It's just a dress. She quickly waved her hand. Although she said so, the expression on her face was a bit disappointed and aggrieved. Chapter 54. That sounded harsh, but it was true. Just by looking at her temperament, people could tell that she was not on the same level as Su Qianxi. Now she was asking for a dress worth more than 200,000 yuan. What else could it be other than ripping off a fat sheep? Lin Wanting's face changed again and again. Although she thought so in her heart, the feeling of being exposed in public was absolutely not good. Looking up at Su Qianxi, Lin hurriedly said, Su Qianxi, don't believe them. I definitely did not mean that. It's just that you used to give me things, right? You used to give them to me, but now I am asking for them. It means something different, right? Su Qianxi glanced at her, and Lin suddenly felt a chill down her spine. Cold and piercing. This is Su Qianxi. Lin froze on the spot, looking at this old classmate in front of her. Oh, isn't this my old classmate? What a coincidence. A loud voice pulled Lin back. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a bright and beautiful figure in red walking in. The high-profile woman took off her sunglasses and glanced at Su Qianxi. The rumor is true. Su Qianxi, do you remember me? You Lily. Lin couldn't believe it. Why are you here? Miss you. Hello, miss you. The salespeople greeted her one by one. Yu Lily put down her sunglasses and squinted at Lin contemptuously. I am a shareholder here. Why can't I be here? Shareholder? Her. Lin eyes almost popped out. She looked at the red luxurious dress, accessories, and shoes. All of them were the latest luxury items of the season. How could this be? Yu Lily used to be just like Su Qianxi. Poor, miserable, how could all of them suddenly turn over a new leaf? Yu Lily's beautiful peach blossom eyes curled up, and her lips curled into a bright smile as she asked, what's going on? A salesperson quickly explained the whole story to Yu Lily and then looked at Lin. Miss, are you going to buy this dress or not? This dress is very expensive. If you don't want to buy it, take it off and put it back. Lin face was burning. She clenched her fists and roared, how do you know I won't buy it? Is this how you treat your customers? That's right. It's not right for you to do this. How can you treat your guests like this? Yu Lily didn't agree. She glanced at the dress Lin was wearing and said, you have good taste. This dress is the latest style this year. Then, his gaze landed on the pair of white sneakers she was wearing. It's just that the shoes don't look good. Do you want to pick a pair of matching shoes? Lin face softened a little and coldly snorted, okay. A salesperson quietly tugged at Yu Lily's clothes and whispered, she can't afford it. Aren't you afraid that she'll rip you off? Although his voice was soft, the place wasn't big. Many people heard him. Chapter 55. As soon as she said that, everyone looked at Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi did not expect Yu Lily to be so decisive. However, what Yu Lily said was exactly what she wanted. Su Qianxi smiled and nodded. Sure. Then she looked at Lin Wanting and said, "It's okay. I can lend it to you." Hearing the word lend, Lin Wanting hesitated. If it was a gift, of course, she would not refuse. However, thinking that she still needed to pay the debt, she felt very different. Okay. Since Su Qianxi said so, Wang, go and get a pen and paper for Lin Wanting to write an IOU. Okay. A salesperson quickly came over with a pen and paper. Lin Wanting's expression changed. Yu Lily, don't go too far. Yu Lily did not like Lin Wanting and Lu Ainen for a long time. If Lin Wanting had known that she could meet Yu Lily here, she would never have come in. However, it was too late to regret now. Looking at the pen and paper in front of her, Lin Wanting looked to Su Qianxi for help and said, "Su Qianxi, aren't we good friends? Why do you have to do this?" When Su Qianxi was about to speak, a rich woman next to her sneered, "Even brothers should be fair. I think you are clearly using Mrs. Li as a fat sheep." Good friends. Pfft. Who said that? What does it have to do with you? Lin Wanting roared. I will not buy it anymore. You should have said that earlier, a salesperson said contemptuously. Take it off. Don't get it dirty. You can't afford it. The thing that Lin Wanting could not stand the most in her life was being looked down upon. Trembling with anger, she almost slapped the salesperson. Stepping forward, she roared, "Who said that? It's only 200,000. The salesperson was startled by Lin Wanting's reaction. Immediately, she saw Lin Wanting snatch the pen and paper from her. He hesitated for a moment when he put down the pen, but he quickly wrote down the two big words, IOU. Anyway, he was borrowing money from Su Qianxi. Now, Su Qianxi was just being instigated by Yu Lily. When Yu Lily was not around, she had plenty of ways to make Su Qianxi forget about the debt and give the money to her willingly. Thinking of Su Qianxi's character of bullying the weak and fearing the strong, Lin Wanting was more confident. In less than 2 minutes, the IOU was written. Su Qianxi paid the bill in full view of everyone. Lin Wanting scolded the salesperson for a while before letting it go. However, just as they were about to leave, Yu Lily followed them. Lin Wanting had an ominous feeling and looked at Yu Lily angrily. What are you doing here? Yu Lily looked at Lin Wanting contemptuously and sneered, What does it have to do with you that I'm walking on my own path? Lin Wanting asked. What does it have to do with you? Lin Wanting was so angry and was about to refute, but she was already in front of her. It's been a while. Do you want to go to the spa together? Qian. Standing in front of Su Qianxi, Yu Lily was bright and beautiful, looking at her with a smile. She couldn't help but think of what she had heard from others about Yu Lily's life in her previous lifetime. Su Qianxi was an orphan, but at the age of 13, she was adopted by a family who could not have children. When she was 18, she was taken back to the Su family. Yu Lily was also an orphan, but she was adopted by a man. Chapter 56. Yu Lily was also an orphan, but she was adopted by a man. In other words, she was a kept woman. In addition to being a kept woman, Su Qianxi had never heard any rumors about her. Mysterious and unpredictable. However, Yu Lily was still high-spirited and bright. Moreover, she was one of the shareholders of Star King Mall. It could be seen that the man behind Yu Lily was definitely not weaker than Li Xiqing in terms of wealth. Su Qianxi had only heard rumors about that man, but had never seen him in person. However, from the rumors, he was as mysterious as Li Xiqing. If Li Xiqing was ranked first, that man would be ranked second. In Lily's previous lifetime, it was said that she was strangled to death in bed on her 25th birthday. Everyone only felt sorry for Lily, the bright flower, but no one dared to find out who killed her. Su Qianxi's thoughts drifted away, but she quickly came back to herself and smiled brightly. Okay. Lily's delicate face became even brighter. She curled her lips and said, "Let's go." Lily took her to a high-end leisure club. As soon as Lin Wanting arrived, her eyes lit up and she deliberately kept a straight face, as if she was a superior person. After the sauna and hot spring, they went to the styling room in the leisure club. "Ah, Lily, you're here." A man with pinched fingers walked over, smelling pungent perfume. Lily seemed to be a frequent visitor to this club. She sat down naturally and pointed at Su Qianxi and Lily. "I brought my friends here to get styled. Do they need any changes?" The sissy man glanced over Su Qianxi and looked at Lin Wanting. He immediately began to nitpick. He started to criticize Lin Wanting's hair quality, hair color, and style. Lin Wanting was anxious. "What should we do?" "It doesn't matter. I am famous for my magic hands. Just leave it to me." As he spoke, he picked up a pair of scissors and cut Lin Wanting's hair. Lin Wanting jumped up from her chair and said angrily, "What are you doing?" Dreamy was shocked. "I'm helping you. Look at you. Io, you look like you're 30. A 20-year-old girl should look like a 20-year-old. Come, sit down. Let Big Sis help you." Lin Wanting looked at Lily suspiciously and asked, "Is your friend reliable?" Without waiting for Lily to speak, Jimmy shouted exaggeratedly, "What do you mean by reliable? If you don't believe me, then leave." Leave? Leave? How could he leave? His hair had already been cut, and there was a missing piece in the middle. If he walked like this, he would look so ugly. Lily was sitting with Su Qianxi. Seeing the commotion, she just glanced at them and said, "Jimmy is a famous stylist. You can trust him." Lin Wanting sat down doubtfully and did not notice that Lily was trying to hold back her laughter. Su Qianxi seemed to have noticed Lily's purpose. Curling her lips slightly, she whispered, "In fact, it can be a little shorter." Lily looked excited and agreed. "I did not expect you to be such a romantic person. I thought you were a good person." Chapter 57. Less than 10 minutes later, Su Qianxi saw the result. Holding the scissors, Jimmy quickly cut Lin Wanting's waist-length hair into ear-length. In addition, Jimmy was very clever, starting from the back of her head. When Lin Wanting noticed it, the back was already bare, but the front was still waist-length. When the scissors were in front of her, Lin Wanting suddenly realized it and immediately screamed in the mirror, almost crying, "You! Ah!" Her voice almost penetrated the wall. Tears immediately fell from Lin Wanting's eyes. "You Lily, you bitch. You must have done it on purpose. Why did you do this to me?" Lily looked calm and laughed, almost in tears. She did not try to hide it at all. God's sins can be forgiven, but self-inflicted sins cannot be forgiven. Don't you like to take advantage of others? Jimmy is a famous stylist in Kingstown. If you can get him to style your hair, you'll be making a fortune. Everyone knew that Lin Wanting was most proud of her hair. Her gentle and quiet image was inseparable from her hairstyle. And her face shape. In other words, other people's faces were faces, but hers was a face plus. In the past, her hair covered her face, but now, not only was it long in the front and short in the back, but the short hair at the back was also too short, so it was sticking up. Combined with her tear-stained face, she looked extremely pathetic. Su Qianxi looked at her and felt some sympathy, but more than that, she felt good. She had wanted to deal with Lin Wanting for a long time, but none of her plans were as good as Lily's move. Sure enough, she was not ruthless enough. What could be more exhilarating than directly destroying the enemy's treasure? The answer was no. When Lin Wanting heard this, she was so angry that her whole body trembled. She rushed to Lily and roared, "You Lily! I will kill you!" However, before Lin Wanting got close, she was pulled away by Jimmy. Although Jimmy looked like a sissy, he was a man after all, and his strength was more than enough to pull a crazy woman away. There were security guards patrolling the area. At Lily's signal, 2 security guards went up and pulled Lin Wanting away. "Ah, Chancy, aren't we good friends? Lily hurt me so much. You have to avenge me. Avenge me." Lin Wanting struggled and yelled. Hearing Lin Wanting asking for help, Su Qianxi looked at her coldly. Just like when they were buying clothes. However, her lips had already curled into a smile. She waved her hand coldly. "If you don't drag it away now, are you going to keep it for the new year?" Hearing this, Lin Wanting's heart skipped a beat. She struggled even more frantically and shouted, "Oh! You Lily, Su Qianxi, you will die a horrible death. How did I offend you? Why do you have to do this to me?" Lily yawned and sneered. "You should ask yourself how you and Lu Anan tricked me back then. Without your help, I wouldn't be where I am today." Lin Wanting looked away and shouted, "I don't understand what you're talking about. You Lily, you will pay for what you did today." Chapter 58. Soon, Lin Wanting was taken away, and the studio was quiet again. Lily leaned lazily on the sofa and picked her ear with her little finger. "It's finally quiet. But haven't you always had a good relationship with her? I thought you would help her. It seems that you're not completely stupid." Yi Qianqian was speechless. Of course, she had been stupid once in her previous lifetime. If she fell for Lin Wanting again in this lifetime, she would have wasted her life. Su Qianxi curled her lips, feeling more and more like Lily. In her previous lifetime, she had been so abused by Tang Menjing that she had always thought that she was the daughter-in-law of the Li family and could not have too much contact with the people she had known when she was still a poor person. She had never doubted Tang Menjing at all. Now she realized that she had missed out on so much fun. Su Qianxi sat down in front of Lily, but before Su Qianxi said anything, Lily's phone rang. Seeing the name on the phone, Lily's face immediately paled. Su Qianxi's eyes darkened, and she picked up the phone. "I'm outside. With a friend. A girl." Okay, okay." Hanging up, Lily looked at Su Qianxi apologetically. "Sorry, I have to go. My family is calling me back." From the conversation, it was not difficult to guess who it was. Su Qianxi nodded. "It's okay. I want to go too. Let's go together." "Okay." Walking out of the club together, Su Qianxi saw a Rolls-Royce parked on the side of the road. One of the windows was open, and the driver was waving at Lily. Lily was dazed. Turning around, she saw Su Qianxi's eyes full of meaning. For a moment, she felt unspeakably embarrassed. That man was so close to her. At this moment, Lily felt like she had been imprisoned, and she was just going out for a walk. Smiling awkwardly, Lily quickly walked to the Rolls-Royce and opened the door of the back seat. Su Qianxi seemed to see a black shadow, arrogant, leaning against the back of the seat. His evil eyes seemed to look at Su Qianxi, sizing her up. Su Qianxi also recognized him at a glance. It was really him, Oh Ming. As soon as the door was closed, Su Qianxi heard the car horn. He turned around and saw that a low-profile Maybach had stopped not far away from him. The window of the front passenger seat was rolled down, revealing a cold and determined side profile. Her cold red lips were tightly pursed, and her eyebrows were slightly furrowed. She seemed a little unhappy. "Get in." Subconsciously, she was going to open the door of the passenger seat. However, she only opened the door a little before she put it back and went around to open the door of the back seat. In her previous life, she had once sat in the front passenger seat of his car without knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. As a result, he chased her out of the car and she was left to feed the mosquitoes on the side of the road. She did not want to experience such a thing a second time. However, before she sat in the back seat, he looked at her coldly and said in a low voice, "Where are you going? Come to the front." Su Qianxi felt aggrieved. What the hell? He made it sound like it was her fault. This man was not only a tortoise, he was also sick. Slamming the back seat door shut, she went back to the passenger seat. Chapter 59. Seeing him driving, Su Qianxi had some understanding of his itinerary. If it was business, he would not be driving. And for personal matters, he never took the driver out. Therefore, except for work, no one could dig into his privacy. Knowing that, Su Qianxi did not ask more and answered honestly, "She is my high school classmate." "Okay," Li Xiqing responded, and his eyebrows relaxed a bit. "Don't get too close to this woman." "Why?" He turned the steering wheel and said in a deep voice, "A woman who can sell herself for money, it is always good to stay away from her." "How is that possible?" "She is not that kind of person," Su Qianxi said firmly. Yu Lily had always been sunny and optimistic. She only reported the good news and not the bad news. Moreover, she had a good relationship with her in high school. In her impression, Yu Lily was definitely not a woman who would sell herself for money. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. He turned his head and glanced at Su Qianxi. It seemed to be full of meaning, but it was just a glance. Soon, he looked away. "You know Ming. I know better than you what kind of person he is." He knew better than her. Su Qianxi suddenly felt a bit strange. Why did he know better than her? Could it be that they, as if noticing her strange look, he glanced at her and explained, "Ming is my brother." Brother? Someone like Li Xiqing would have a brother. Su Qianxi was shocked and couldn't help but look at him. His side profile was cold and dignified, looking very serious. He was not joking at all. That's right, he never joked. However, she had been with him for 5 years in her previous lifetime, and she had never heard that he had a brother. Turning his head, Li Xiqing immediately saw a pair of big, black, grape-like eyes, flashing with confusion. Slowly looking away, he drove without saying a word and soon arrived at the Kingstown Villa area. The next 2 days were unexpectedly calm. It was summer vacation and Su Qianxi was bored every day, so she signed herself up for a judo class. In addition to going to class, she went home. However, on Saturday afternoon, she suddenly received a call. "Hi, Qian." Louis Han's voice was as bright as ever. What's wrong with Almighty Lu? Tisk, women are so forgetful. I said I would treat you to dinner on Saturday night. Do you have time tonight? Yes. Being the wife of a rich family is really different. In the past, when I asked you out, I would have to work at any time. I'm so jealous. Su Qianxi couldn't help but chuckle. She curled up on the sofa and said, "Don't joke around. Besides, I won't go easy on you. I'm going to rip you off." Louis Han's tone was weird. "Oh, the trick is exposed. What does Mrs. Li want to eat? Today, I'll let you slaughter me ruthlessly." How about we go to the barbecue stand in front of the high school? Louis Han almost fainted. He sighed and said, Mrs. Li, please don't be so polite. I have money now. Thanks to Su Qianxi, the 100,000 yuan was like a timely rain. In just a few days, he had multiplied the value of the 100,000 by more than a dozen times. However, Su Qianxi was not joking. She chuckled and said, I'm serious. I didn't dare to go before because I couldn't afford it. Now that someone is treating me, of course, I have to go. What's wrong? Are you worried about me? Of course not. Okay, then let's go there. Do you want me to pick you up? No, I'll go there myself. Okay. See you later. Okay. Hanging up the phone, Su Qianxi hummed and went to change. Fortunately, she had not thrown away her old clothes. Otherwise, she would be treated like an alien if she went to eat barbecue in branded clothes. Chapter 60. It was already past 7 p.m. when she arrived at her alma mater. Su Qianxi paid the fare and saw a red Renault parked not far away, with a young man leaning against it. He looked about 20 years old, wearing a pair of rimless glasses. His skin was white, his nose was high, and his lips were tender and thin. The moment he saw Su Qianxi, a bright smile bloomed on his face. Hi, Qian. Su Qianxi saw his casual clothes and the bright smile on his face, which made him look like a handsome young man. Wow, I haven't seen you for a long time, and you've become so beautiful. It's amazing. Louis Han exclaimed exaggeratedly and covered his eyes. I'm blinded. Don't get too close to me. The halo of a goddess will knock me down. Su Qianxi chuckled. You really haven't changed at all. Louis Han also laughed and stood next to her. He reached out and measured her head with a look of disgust. But you really haven't grown taller. You're still a little dwarf. Are you shameless? Comparing height with a woman like me? You can grow to 180, but if I am 180, it will scare people to death. It seems to make sense, but are you even 150? Su Qianxi saw his contemptuous look and punched him angrily, roaring like she used to, I'm 165. Louis Han let out an exaggerated scream and stepped back, looking seriously injured. I'm going to die, it hurts so much, go away. As they fought, the two had already entered the barbecue stall that they had agreed on. This barbecue stall had a bit of history in Kingstown First High School, and the taste was very good. After ordering a lot of things, Su Qianxi ordered a few bottles of beer and slowly chatted with Louis Han. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. The two chatted from place to place, not noticing that a pair of eyes had been staring at them since they entered. Kingstown First High School was one of the most famous high schools in the city. Many people came from far away to attend classes. On the weekends, they would be more playful, so it was normal for them to not go home. In the corner of the barbecue stall, there were two girls about 17 or 18 years old. Their attention had been attracted the moment they entered the stall. The moment Tang Mengqing saw Su Qianxi come in, she paused and quickly nudged Li Weiya, saying, Look, isn't that your sister-in-law? Who's that man? Li Weiya turned around and saw Su Qianxi at a glance. Oh, it's true. But why would my cousin's sister-in-law appear here? When Li Weiya was about to get up and say hello to Su Qianxi, Tang Mengqing stopped her. Don't go. Your cousin has only been married to her for a few days, and she is already having an affair with another man. It seems that my sister was right. This woman is a slut. Tang Mengqing said. These words were not very pleasant to hear, but it stopped Li Weiya from getting up and she sat down again. Tang Mengqing said, Send a photo to your brother so that he can see the real face of this woman. don't be fooled. Li Weiya nodded and took a photo of Su Qianxi's face with her cell phone. She also gave Lui Han a close-up. Chapter 61. The photo was sent successfully. Before Li Weiya did anything, Tang Mengqing snatched the phone from her. Give it to me. I'll help you. Tang Mengqing's fingers quickly typed on the phone. When Li Weiya took the phone back, she found that Tang Mengqing had sent 2 messages to Li Xiqing. Wow, brother, what a big hat you have on your head. You even turned green. So cool. Seeing Tang Mengqing's message, Li Weiya felt uneasy. I don't think it's appropriate. Li Xiqing has a bad temper. What if he gets angry? Oh my god, which man would not get angry when his wife cheats on him? Yaya, you are too naive. Tang Mengqing took the phone from Tang Mengqing's hand again. I have to send a copy to my sister. Li Weiya was anxious and quickly took the phone back. Why send it to your sister? Yaya, think about it. Before Li Xiqing got married, he was the best with my sister, right? We all thought that they would get married, right? This woman is a shameless mistress. Therefore, there is nothing to sympathize with. Mistresses should be exposed to the public. Tang Mengqing was indignant and said firmly. However, Li Weiya felt a bit obedient and said hesitantly, but that was my grandpa's idea, just send it to my sister. Tang Mengqing snatched the phone back. Tang Mengqing was preparing for the interview tomorrow. In order to get closer to Li Xiqing, she did not hesitate to choose the position of secretary. Before this, he had already told Auntie Li that as long as he went through the interview the next day, he would be able to enter the company immediately. Just then, she received a WeChat message from Li Weiya. Clicking it open, Tang Mengqing immediately perked up. In the photo, the woman was smiling brightly, and the man sitting across from her was wearing a pair of rimless glasses, looking gentle and sunny. Especially his fair skin, Tang Mengqing could tell that he was a gigolo. When he saw this photo, the tension in his heart for the past 2 days suddenly relaxed. Unable to hold back, she laughed out loud in her room. When Mrs. Tang passed by her daughter's room, she happened to hear her daughter's laughter. What is so funny? Mom, come take a look at this. As he spoke, he handed the phone over. When Mrs. Tang saw this, her eyes lit up. She laughed happily as if she had come back to life. This be *TCH. I was worried that I wouldn't have a chance to skin her alive. I didn't expect that she would come to me like this. I will make her infamous. Hurry up and send it to me. I'll go show that old man of the Li family tomorrow and let him see what kind of person his granddaughter-in-law is. Tang Mengqing, on the other hand, was much calmer. With a smile on her lips, she had a calculating look in her eyes. Don't worry. It's not easy to get such a good material. How can I not take the opportunity to screw this woman? Annan's affairs must have something to do with her. I want to avenge the new hatred and the old hatred together. What do you want to do? Mrs. Tang was excited. Thinking that the little bitch might be abandoned by the Li family because of this, she felt very happy. Tang Mengqing sneered. Instead of making her infamous, why not ruin her reputation? We can do this. Chapter 62. Li Xiqing was in a video conference in the study. When he saw the WeChat message, it was already more than half an hour later. Seeing this photo, Li Xiqing's eyes suddenly tightened, and the atmosphere in the study quickly became dangerous. His face was already cold, and at this moment, it was even more difficult to soften. In front of him, he seemed to see a pair of black eyes that were as scared as a deer, so pure and so evasive. However, he did not expect that she did not let him touch her, just because the person who touched her was Li Xiqing. Ha! Good, very good. Picking up his phone, he directly dialed the string of numbers that had just been added to his contact list less than 2 days ago, the one at home. However, at this moment, the more he looked at it, the more annoyed he was. The originally simple 5 words seemed to be full of sarcasm at this moment. Su Qianxi ate skewers and drank beer, feeling a rare feeling of release. Chatting with Louis Han made her feel more relaxed than ever. Compared with being careful when she was with Li Xiqing, Louis Han was more like her close friend, unrestrained and did not need to beat around the bush. Su Qianxi was so happy that she felt like she was about to fly. In her previous life, she had been abiding by the teachings of the Li family and the rules of a rich family. But only after she died once did she realize that to hell with the rules and etiquette. Nothing was more important than being happy. However, at this time, her phone rang. She picked up the phone and saw it was Li Xiqing. If she remembered correctly, this was the first time he had called her since they got married. Hello. Where are you? I am outside. What are you doing? Dinner. What friend? Su Qianxi felt something was wrong. Although Li Xiqing usually spoke with no warmth, he was not as aggressive as now. It seemed that he was a bit angry. What was he doing? Checking up on me. However, after thinking about it, she still said, good friend. Li Xiqing, who was far away in the house, heard that and his eyes became colder. Good friend. Male or female? What? Don't dare to say it. Li Xiqing's voice was slightly sarcastic. He's a guy, just a high school classmate. She did not understand why she had to explain, but she still felt at ease. She had nothing to do with Louis Han, so she was not afraid to tell him. However, a low chuckle came from the other side. Extremely low, extremely cold. Why didn't you choose a smarter place to meet another man in private? Kingstown First High School. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly looked around. Seeing her reaction, Li Weiya immediately lowered her head guiltily and ate the skewers in silence. However, she still saw it. Tang Mengqing was not afraid at all. She looked at Su Qianxi provocatively. That's what we said. What do you think? Seeing her like that, it was not hard to guess who she had received a call from. Chapter 63. Tang Mengqing, Tang Menjing's younger sister. Su Qianxi did not hang up, so Li Xiqing heard Tang Mengqing's words. The temperature in the study plummeted. No man could accept his wife treating him like this. Not to mention a man like Li Xiqing. Because they were already married, he had slowly distanced himself from Tang Menjing in order to maintain the marriage. Although it was only for Grandpa's sake. Still, he had shown his sincerity. However, he did not expect that this woman was dating another man so openly. After hanging up, Li Xiqing called Yang and said, "Go to Kingstown First High School and pick up your wife." Yang had just finished showering and was about to go to bed with his wife. While they were having sex, he suddenly received such a call. His anger was immediately extinguished by the coldness in his words. "Yes, sir." Su Qianxi looked at the girl in front of her and suddenly laughed. Confused, Tang Mengqing suddenly felt goosebumps all over her body. Looking at Su Qianxi, she stammered, "What? What are you laughing at? Do all the Tang family members like to meddle in other people's business?" Indeed, there is a difference in manners. Although Tang Mengqing was only 17, she was not stupid at all. Su Qianxi was obviously scolding him for his poor upbringing. Trembling with anger, Tang Mengqing said, "What are you talking about, Su Qianxi? You are the one who is cheating." Cheating? Su Qianxi arched an eyebrow. "Do you know what cheating looks like?" Su Qianxi's voice was unexpectedly deep, with an indescribable sense of danger. This feeling was exactly the same as when she was facing Li Xiqing. Frightened, Tang Mengqing took a step back. It was not because Su Qianxi looked fierce at the moment, but because of her aura and the look in her eyes. As a 17-year-old girl, Tang Mengqing could not handle that. So scary. Tang Mengqing was speechless, standing there. Su Qianxi glanced at her lower abdomen and joked, "You are the one who is cheating. Do you want to do an amniocentesis to see whose baby is in your belly?" Su Qianxi's words stunned Tang Mengqing, as if she was struck by lightning. She. How did she know? She didn't even tell her best friend, Li Weiya, about this. The only person he had ever told was his sister. In addition, Tang Mengqing had agreed to take her to have an abortion tomorrow. Did Tang Mengqing tell her? Tang Mengqing's face had turned pale. Hearing Su Qianxi's words, her brain was in a mess. She retorted, "What? What are you talking about? How could I be pregnant with someone else's child? So, you are really pregnant?" Li Weiya covered her mouth in disbelief. Lu Yihan did not speak from beginning to end. Hearing this, he laughed. "Little girls nowadays really know how to play. Does your family know that you're so open?" However, he wasn't sure if her family knew about it. But he could guarantee that before tomorrow, this little girl's reputation would be completely ruined. Chapter 64. Tang Mengqing was dumbfounded. Realizing that she had spilled the beans, her face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. After all, she was just a teenage girl. No matter how powerful her mother and sister were, they were still young. Under Su Qianxi's aura, Tang Mengqing was overwhelmed. Hearing Li Weiya's words, Tang Mengqing quickly explained, "How is that possible? Don't listen to her." "I didn't." However, although Li Weiya was innocent, she was not stupid at all. What Tang Mengqing had said was a silent admission. Now, her explanation could no longer be trusted at all. Seeing her friend's obvious disbelief, Tang Mengqing felt too embarrassed to stay. She gave Su Qianxi a hard look and ran away with tears in her eyes. Li Weiya looked at Su Qianxi apologetically and quickly chased after Tang Mengqing. "Hey, you have not paid yet," the owner of the barbecue stand caught up and yelled. "Let me take you back. It's late now, and it's more convenient for me to drive. Let me take you back. It's late now, and it's more convenient for me to drive. It's okay. I can take a taxi myself. It's okay. Get in. It's on my way anyway." Su Qianxi looked at the time. It was almost 9 in the evening. It was not that late in Kingstown, but it was still a bit difficult to take a taxi here. Thinking about it, Su Qianxi nodded and said, "Okay, thank you." Lu Yihan looked relaxed and opened the door for her like a gentleman. However, before Su Qianxi sat down, she heard a siren not far away. She looked over and saw Li Xiqing's black Maybach. It was low-key, introverted, but very flamboyant. Yang rolled down the window and said, "Mr. Li asked me to take you back." Su Qianxi frowned and asked, "He asked you to come?" "Yes, am." Hearing the affirmative answer, Su Qianxi felt even more strange. Since when did Li Xiqing care about her so much? In her previous lifetime, he would have wanted her dead. He would not have cared where she was or sent someone to pick her up. In this life, there were too many different things. Thinking of that, she did not refuse and looked at Lu Yihan apologetically. "You go back. I will let Yang take me back." "All right." Lu Yihan was a bit worried. Thinking of the rumors about Li Xiqing's dictatorship, he said, "But it should be okay, right?" He was afraid that Su Qianxi would bring him unnecessary trouble. After all, the little girl named Tang just said something unpleasant. Coupled with the phone call just now, it was really worrying. It's okay. She gave him a reassuring smile. It's just a political marriage. He never cares about me. Hearing this, Louis Han breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Be careful. She nodded and opened the door of the back seat. However, as soon as he opened the door, he was shocked. The dim light from the back seat lazily shone on a tall figure, casting a gentle glow. He was like a god, noble and inviolable. Li Xiqing's eyes were half closed, leaning against the leather seat, exuding an indescribable aura. Cold and dangerous. Chapter 65. Caught off guard, Su Qianxi was pulled forward. She exclaimed and threw herself under the back seat of the car. Her hand hit the top of the car hard, and then under her body. Su Qianxi almost fell into a strong chest, and her palms felt a burning heat. Subconsciously grabbing it, she was surprised to find that it felt good, soft and fleshy. No, something was wrong. It was getting harder and harder. Her heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly realized what it was. She quickly let go and looked up. As soon as he looked up, he found himself in the deep night lake. Cold. It was cold enough to penetrate the bones, but there was a bit of fire in it. The fire seemed to be angry and lustful. It was hard to explain, but it made Su Qianxi feel a sense of crisis. This man was so scary. Su Qianxi's heart suddenly raced. She was scared. She subconsciously wanted to get up, but before she could straighten her body, a strong and sturdy arm tightly wrapped around her waist. Looking up, her heart suddenly tightened. His eyes were extremely cold and filled with a strong sense of distrust. This feeling was exactly the same as after the fire in her previous lifetime, when she was disfigured and tried to explain that she did not set the fire. But today, compared to the indifference from before, there was more anger and lust. He looked into her eyes and pinched her chin. No. She felt a sharp pain in her chin, and she subconsciously exclaimed with fear in her voice. Louis Han was shocked to see Su Qianxi fall and quickly ran over. As soon as she got closer, she heard her scream. Her heart skipped a beat in fright. However, before he could even touch her clothes, the backseat door was slammed shut. Then the low-key, luxurious black Maybach drove away. Asshole, this guy won't hit a woman, will he? F***ck. Is he still a man? It's disgusting. Louis Han cursed in a low voice and quickly drove to catch up. It was summer, but Su Qianxi felt very cold. It was so cold that she was trembling, so cold that she was trembling. Holding her chin, Li Xiqing felt the subtle movement of her body. His eyes seemed to be stained with ink, so dark and thick. Are you afraid of me? Hearing his question, the little hands on his body silently clenched into fists. Afraid? How could he not be afraid? She had seen him like this more than once in her previous lifetime. He was angry. Seeing she did not speak, Li Xiqing tightened his arms. Su Qianxi frowned in pain, but she clearly felt the warmth in front of her. If you're scared of me, why did you make me a cuckold? I didn't. She shook her head, but the pain in her chin was even worse. He is just my classmate. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. Looking down, he glanced at her breasts that were pressed against his chest. Her deep cleavage, fair and tender, rose and fell along with her breathing. One look was enough to drive anyone crazy. Wearing a low-cut dress to meet a classmate. Su Qianxi felt insulted and struggled to get up, but he pressed her even harder and pressed her against him. Chapter 66. His rapid breathing was particularly conspicuous in the silent back seat of the car. Su Qianxi's heart was racing. The hard part on her lower abdomen became more and more obvious, and her struggling movements completely quietened down. Panicked and frightened, she looked at him pleadingly. Their eyes met. She was embarrassed and scared, but he was calm. Just like usual, it was as if the arrogant man wasn't her. The back seat of the car was filled with a charming atmosphere. Although they did not do anything, Yang felt his face was burning. The president was so fierce. Well, sir, there is a red Renault following us. It has been following us for a few blocks. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes and said quietly, slow down. What? Yang thought he had heard it wrong. Let him catch up. Doesn't he want to see what I will do to this woman? Then let's see. Su Qianxi felt a bit uneasy and wanted to dodge. However, Li Xiqing reacted faster. Clamping her chin, he lowered his head and kissed her lips. Su Qianxi was scared. His actions were domineering and rough, without any gentleness. Tongues of flame wantonly plunged in and plundered wildly. His arms were itching to crush her to pieces. He was so forceful, so barbaric. Su Qianxi tried to escape, but he clamped her even harder. Li Xiqing noticed her naughtiness, so he simply lifted her up and made her sit on him. His posture was wild. Su Qianxi's breathing was rapid and messy. When he finally let her go, she tried to break free with her hands and feet. However, the strength of a man and a woman was so different. Li Xiqing held her waist with one hand and grabbed her thigh with the other, pressing her down. Su Qianxi's body was pressed down hard, and the hard part was facing her. Despite the clothes, the heat still made her blush, and she struggled even harder. Li Xiqing directly pressed her down and rubbed his head against hers, saying hoarsely, if you move again, I will *CK you right here. Yang did not dare to look, but when he heard that, he couldn't help blushing. He silently raised the partition in the middle and looked straight ahead. Confucius once said, see no evil, hear no evil. Su Qianxi was so scared that she suddenly stopped moving. The heat there was getting hotter and hotter, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. Didn't you hate me? She gritted her teeth and did not say anything in the end. However, in Li Xiqing's ears, it meant a lot. In fact, there were a lot of them. What was he not? Not a man. Not her lover. Or was it, not that gigolo? Seeing the red Renault that was about to approach, Li Xiqing's eyes became muddy. His chest was burning with rage. He turned over and pushed her. She let out a yelp, and when she realized what had happened, she was already on the leather seat. The sound of skin rubbing against real leather stimulated his wolf instincts that had been buried for years. He lowered his head and bit down on her neck. Ah! No! Su Qianxi exclaimed and swallowed the rest of the word. Despite the partition, the screams could still be heard. Yang clamped his legs together when he heard this. Oh my, he was having sex on the road. Chapter 67. Louis Han drove the car, trying to catch up, but he could not keep up. However, the Maybach in front of him suddenly began to slow down. Louis Han hurried forward and soon caught up with them. However, there was a sticker on the window, so he could not see anything from where he was. Louis Han couldn't help thinking of Su Qianxi's scream and the terrible rumors. It was said that Li Xiqing was not interested in women and had a strange temper. It was said that Li Xiqing was a psychopath. He never cares about me. Su Qianxi's words rang in his head, and Louis Han suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Was Su Qianxi's marriage just a marriage of convenience? And Li Xiqing looked tall and strong, but he was actually gay. Louis Han was frightened by his own imagination, and his heart was filled with infinite bitterness. Hence, he stepped on the gas pedal to the maximum and drove straight up to the front of the Maybach. Su Qianxi struggled and resisted, but the man on top of her was completely unmoved. Li Xiqing became more and more powerful, and his anger became more and more intense. His big hand pulled hard, and the sound of clothes tearing came. Su Qianxi could not hold back her tears anymore. Horrible. She had never seen Li Xiqing like this. In the past, he could throw her out of the car to feed the mosquitoes, question her for Tang Menjing, and even make out with her to show Grandpa. However, after that, he hated her like a virus. However, it was the first time in her 2 lifetimes that he had treated her like this. Why? Did he really believe Tang Mingqing's words and wanted to verify it? Tasting Su Qianxi's tears, Li Xiqing was even more reminded of the green hat on his head. Before the wedding, she pretended to be crazy, and on the wedding night, she was passionate. However, after that, she treated him like a wild animal. He should have thought of it. Even though she had given her first time to him, her heart was filled with another man. At this moment, all Li Xiqing could think of was to destroy her. Scared? Li Xiqing paused and looked down at the little woman who was shivering under him. Afraid, Su Qianxi answered silently in her heart, but she could not make any sound. Her bright black eyes were full of fear, with a little grievance and a trace of vulnerability. His eyes were like rolling waves, and his burning desire was constantly rising. Inside the carriage, the sound of rapid breathing was especially ear-piercing. Su Qianxi's heart was beating fast, and her hand holding his clothes tightened. Just when she thought he was going to do something, the car stopped abruptly. He leaned forward and fell down. Su Qianxi was caught off guard and exclaimed. Just now, no matter how crazy Li Xiqing was, there was always a little distance between them. But with this break, they were stuck together tightly. 2 burning hot bodies were tightly entangled. Feeling the soft and innocent little body under him, Li Xiqing's body tensed up, his teeth clenched, and his face twisted. Patience. Su Qianxi clearly sensed that he was trying to hold back. However, what was he enduring? Don't tell me, he wants to hit me. Su Qianxi was even more scared. Her heart felt like it had been hit hard. Bang, bang, bang. Chapter 68. The window was rolled down, and a gust of hot air blew in his face. Louis Han immediately saw the elegant man leaning in the back seat of the car. His body was slightly tilted, and his clothes were messy. His slightly curly short hair was slightly curled, but it did not look messy. Instead, it looked ambiguous. Li Xiqing slowly turned his head, his cold eyes like those of a cheetah, sharp and deep. Vaguely, Louis Han seemed to see some mockery in those cold eyes. Although he did not say a word, it was enough to make people feel a sense of oppression. Cold and dangerous. Looking inside, he only had time to see Su Qianxi's messy clothes and blushing cheeks before his eyes were covered. Louis Han did not expect to see such a scene. Although it was just a glimpse, it was not difficult to imagine what was going on in the car. Blushing slightly, Louis Han's worried heart was relieved. It turned out that she was not abused. However, at the same time, he was a bit depressed. It was a pity that she was not abused. Louis Han felt a bit conflicted. Slapping Li Xiqing's hand away, he said, "Are you Qianqian's husband?" Qianqian. So affectionate. Li Xiqing's eyes suddenly became cold. Louis Han only felt a shiver, and a chill spread from his feet to his whole body. This man was indeed as scary as the rumors said. "What's up?" His voice was low and cold, with an obvious alienation. "She and I are just classmates. We haven't seen each other for a long time, so we just had dinner together. Don't get me wrong." Louis Han explained, but thinking that it might not be enough, he added, "Aren't you very good? You can check it out. We have never seen each other before. Ihan, you go back first." Su Qianxi's voice came from the back seat, a bit low and husky. However, Lu Yihan's sight was completely blocked by Li Xiqing, and he could not see her at all. Vaguely, Lu Yihan felt something was wrong, but he could not describe the feeling at all. She seemed to be, not willing. Lu Yihan was shocked by his own thought, frowning and asking, "Qian, are you okay? It seems that you really want to participate in our emotional exchange." Emotional exchange. Lu Yihan blushed again, quickly stepped back, and said, "No, hands." Li Xiqing glanced at Lu Yihan's hand on the window. Lu Yihan felt like he had been struck by lightning and quickly retracted his hand. The window was rolled up again. Lu Yihan looked at the black Maybach driving away and felt a sense of emptiness in his heart. She left, her husband took her away. Returning to the villa, Su Qianxi was almost carried out of the car. Li Xiqing's strength was amazing, but it was obvious that his movements were much gentler than when he was in the car. Her wrist was hurting, and her heart was pounding. She had to trot to keep up with him. As soon as he came in, he threw her onto the sofa and threw a cell phone at her. Su Qianxi sat down and took the phone that had been thrown aside with some surprise. At a glance, she saw her back. And Lu Yihan's profile. The angle of the photo was very ingenious. From this angle, it looked like they were kissing. "I didn't." She panicked. No wonder he was so angry. Chapter 69. He gave her a deep look and reached out to straighten his messy clothes. His face was so cold that Su Qianxi did not notice the arrogance under his clothes. At this moment, following his movement, Su Qianxi's eyes naturally moved down. Her face that had finally calmed down suddenly blushed. Suddenly standing up, she put the phone on the sofa and stepped back to keep a distance from him. "I did not. I would not do such a thing." She was avoiding him. Was she afraid that he would touch her? Li Xiqing easily sensed her purpose, and his cold eyes became a bit angry. He took a big step forward and grabbed her arm. His anger was monstrous. Su Qianxi did not dare to look at his piercing eyes and looked away. Li Xiqing stared at her as if asking, "You did not do such a thing. Why are you avoiding me?" However, before Su Qianxi said anything, he let go of her hand and said, "Dirty." Then, he turned around and strode to the second floor. Su Qianxi's heart ached, as if she had been cut by a knife. The pain made her short of breath. "Dirty?" He said she was dirty. She clearly did not do anything. Returning to her room, Su Qianxi saw the broken woman in the mirror and immediately felt wronged, clenching her fists. He always used the most lofty attitude to give her the most unbearable humiliation and blow. After the shower, Su Qianxi changed her clothes and took out the contract with Xing Ximing's private seal and the firm's official seal from the bedside drawer. It seemed that it was time to tell her the truth. Li Xiqing had never lost control like today. Even he could not explain it clearly. He had never touched a woman before. Even if Tang Menjing was naked in front of him, he would not feel anything. Why did he have a reaction to such a woman? There was a voice in his heart screaming, "Want her, want her." However, thinking of that disgusting photo, he could not bring himself to do it. Dirty, so dirty. Thinking that this woman might have been with another man, Li Xiqing couldn't help feeling disgusted. After taking a cold shower and calming down a lot, he came out of the bathroom. As soon as he opened the bathroom door, he saw a delicate figure sitting on his bed. Her side profile was gentle and beautiful. The warm yellow light shone on her face, making it seem as if she was exuding an indescribable holy light. Noticing the movement behind her, she turned around and looked over. Her facial features were exquisite, and her eyes were slightly swollen from crying. However, she didn't know that this inadvertent turn of her head had inexplicably ignited the fire that the man had suppressed with great difficulty. Li Xiqing grimaced and clenched his fists. His bulging veins looked a little scary. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, and she began to retreat. It was this feeling again. He was enduring it again. Did he really want to hit her? Li Xiqing was only wrapped in a towel. His well-defined muscles were slowly dripping water as he walked toward her. Chapter 70. Looking at her scared but stubborn face, Li Xiqing's heart softened a bit. However, when his gaze landed on the stack of white paper in her hand, his eyes narrowed. What is that? Su Qianxi noticed his gaze and subconsciously wanted to hide it. However, she immediately paused and clenched her fists, which were already wet with sweat. Her heart was beating incredibly fast. Nervous. Li Xiqing's temper was so bad. If she really told him, he would definitely get angry. Would he strangle her to death? However, at this moment, she urgently needed this thing to protect herself. Otherwise, if what happened today happened a few more times, she would be scared to death. Thinking again and again, she still took out the contract and said, I think, we need to talk. Glancing at his almost perfect body, she stood up and said quickly, You put on your clothes first. I will wait for you in the living room. Before Li Xiqing had time to speak, she had already escaped. Looking at her back, Li Xiqing actually felt a bit cute. Feeling inexplicably relaxed, he quickly changed into pajamas and went downstairs. When Li Xiqing went downstairs, he found that Su Qianxi was inexplicably nervous and restless. Seeing him coming down, she immediately stood up. Seeing this, Li Xiqing's eyes softened a bit. This woman, how could she be so timid? Thinking of the time she saw him since they got married, it was not an exaggeration to say that she saw a ghost. Although he did not know why she was so afraid of him, she was really afraid and not pretending. Such a woman, he had almost believed the lie that she would cheat on him. Thinking of his rudeness, Li Xiqing softened his voice and said, What is it? Hearing his voice, Su Qianxi timidly looked up at his eyes. She found that his mood was much calmer than before. Swallowing, she then sat down, picked up the pen she had prepared, spread out the contract, and handed it over. Seeing the 4 words, Li Xiqing's eyes paused for 1 second, 2 seconds. Su Qianxi keenly found that his eyes were more dangerous than before. He clearly didn't have any expression on his face, but the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped all of a sudden. It was so threatening, so bone-piercing. Su Qianxi was almost out of breath. She stammered, I think, we are still, not quite right for each other. So, you want a divorce? Li Xiqing's voice was terrifyingly low, with an inexplicable meaning. Su Qianxi's heart was pounding, almost rushing to her throat. Facing his cold eyes, Su Qianxi was scared. However, she still nodded and said softly, I know you hate me very much, but you can't disobey Grandpa's orders. So, I can wait for a year before we divorce. At that time, we can pretend that I'm infertile and divorce. At that time, Grandpa won't have any reason to blame you. You've thought it through. His voice was still very low, and she could not hear any emotion in it. It was like a cold machine, without the slightest fluctuation. Chapter 71. Li Xiqing's cold gaze fell on Su Qianxi. His eyes were dark and dangerous. He walked up, took the contract, and read it. The more he read, the colder his eyes became. The seal of Xing Shiming, one of the best lawyers in Kingstown. Also, the seal of Xingshi, the best law firm in Kingstown. This law firm was one of the best in Kingstown. With the Sue family's connections, it would take at least a week to make an appointment. However, the Sue family would never let her divorce him. Therefore, this must be a contract that Sue Chansey had drafted herself. Ordinary people who did not rely on the Sue family would have to wait at least half a month to get such a seal. In other words, Sue Chansey had been planning this divorce contract at least half a month ago. In this case, why did she marry him? Li Siqing suddenly became curious. What was in this woman's head? Staring at her signature at the end of the contract, Li Siqing pondered and quickly looked away. His cold eyes glanced at her, and she suddenly shrank, looking down helplessly. It really looked like a frightened deer. Although Li Siqing had a bad temper, he was also highly educated. No matter how bad his personality was, he knew that it was not good to force things. Without a word, he took the fountain pen from her hand and signed his name. Then, he turned around and left. Sue Chansey stood there, watching him go upstairs, feeling like she was in a dream. He actually signed it. Looking down, she saw the 3 beautiful words that he had written. Li Siqing. Li Siqing. Sue Chansey stared at the 3 words, feeling a bit empty. She had hoped that he would sign, but when she saw his signature, she felt an indescribable sense of loss. He did not care at all. Sure enough, his rudeness was only because of the green hat. Sure enough, at 11:30 p.m., Charm of Night Bar. A tall man was leaning on the sofa. His sexy burgundy casual suit was a bit messy. On the collar of his white shirt, there was a clear kiss mark. There were 2 scantily clad women sitting on each side, and they were trying to please the man in the middle. Oh Ming enjoyed the beauty's flattery. His long, slender fingers held a crystal cup and gently swirled the red liquid inside. His devilish face had a gloating smile as he asked, "Really?" Li Siqing sat across from him, occupying a 3-seater sofa. The colorful crystal chandelier above swayed slightly, and the colorful light and shadow projected on his cold and resolute face. It was an indescribable charm that dazzled people's eyes. All the women at the scene were mesmerized by the scene. How beautiful! This face was not something that one could see at any time. Every time they looked at it, it was enough to amaze them. Yes. Li Siqing had long been accustomed to the stares around him, and his expression did not change much. What should we do? Our young Master Li has been divorced. It's so strange. Although he said that, Oh Ming's face was full of gloating. Glancing at him, Li Siqing took a sip of the cocktail in front of him and said rudely, "That woman ran away again." The smile on his face suddenly disappeared. Oh Ming slightly tightened his grip and gritted his teeth. Can't you hope for something better? Chapter 72. Seeing the change in his expression, Li Siqing had a rare smile in his eyes. What are you smiling at? You were dumped in the end. Oh Ming gritted his teeth, but soon his expression softened a little. He waved his hand and said, "Go and serve Mr. Li well." The 2 scantily dressed girls immediately got up shyly and went over to him. God knew how long they had been looking forward to it. However, since Oh Ming did not say anything, they did not dare to do anything. Now that they had gotten permission from their superiors, they were very happy. Li Siqing. Her soft voice was obviously trying to please Li Siqing, which made Li Siqing feel disgusted. His face, which was already cold and gloomy, darkened even further as he growled, "Scram." The 2 girls were still a few meters away from Li Siqing, but they did not dare to go over. Seeing this, Oh Ming laughed. Just kidding. Why are you so serious? You can go. Our Mr. Li never lacks women, because he does not need women at all. The faces of the two young ladies were visibly startled. What did he mean? Did he not need women at all? Could it be that he was gay? Oh my God, that was so exciting. The two girls looked at each other and quickly left. Holding a glass of wine, Ming sat next to Li Xiqing and said, "Seriously, did that woman divorce you because you can't do it?" Li Xiqing's face became darker, and he looked at Ming gloomily. After being brothers for so many years, Ming had long been used to it. He smiled and said, "Everyone knows that you never have a woman around you. Don't pretend. I know an old Chinese medicine doctor who is particularly good at it. Have you tried it?" "Why would I need to try it?" "Then shut up. Can you do it or not?" Ming did not give up until all hope was gone. Li Xiqing's cold eyes were a bit thoughtful. He glanced at Ming and said coldly, "It seems that the wedding day scared her." "What do you mean?" "That's amazing." "Pooh." Ming spat out the wine he had just drunk. He coughed violently, and his face was already red. However, he could not help but pat the sofa and laugh. Ha 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 ha. Li Xiqing looked at him coldly and raised his fist. Ming immediately shut his mouth and said earnestly, "That old Chinese medicine doctor is really good." "I'm serious," Li Xiqing interrupted. "Impossible." Ming laughed rudely. "It's obvious that I'm not interested in you. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a woman who wouldn't like someone who's a little more powerful." Li Xiqing's fists were clenched, his eyes full of warning. Ming closed his mouth again and coughed softly. Then, as if he had thought of something, he asked in surprise, "Wait, you like her?" "I don't like it." "Then why are you willing to touch her? Don't you always hate women touching you?" "That day, someone drugged us." Anyway, it was definitely not Su Qianxi who drugged him. That woman was even more timid than the eye of a needle. It was definitely not her. "You are talking as if Tang Menjing had never drugged you before. You sent her to the hospital as a gentleman. How come you are so powerful after changing your target?" Li Xiqing said, "I slept with a woman, and now I want to marry her. The Tang family is ambitious. I don't want to get involved." Chapter 73. Ming said, "You clearly like her, but did you sign it?" "Yes." "You will regret it, I tell you," Ming said sympathetically. "No, I won't." "Do you want to verify it?" "Verify what?" "Come, Qin." Ming raised his hand and snapped his fingers. A coquettish woman hurriedly ran over. She had delicate makeup on her face, and she was only wearing a skirt that wrapped around her breasts and buttocks, which outlined her beautiful figure. The pungent perfume wafted over, and Li Xiqing's eyes flashed with disgust. Ming saw it clearly and shouted, "10 ladies, come and accompany our young master." Li Qin heard that and was overjoyed. Okay, right away." "What the hell are you doing?" "Verifying." Soon, 10 young ladies stood in a row, and some of the more proactive ones poured wine for Ming. One of the prettiest women was pushed to Li Xiqing's side by Ming. Smelling the perfume, Li Xiqing felt a bit dizzy. Tilting his head, he saw a delicate face. Very beautiful. But disgusting. Su Qianxi's face was more pleasing to his eyes. And the smell. The unique fragrance of a young girl, light and seductive. Seeing that Li Xiqing did not lose his temper, the woman poured him a glass of wine and charmingly put her breasts on it, saying, "Li Xiqing, Mr. Li, don't." Suddenly, a weak moan appeared in his heart, overlapping with the flirtatious voice, increasing in intensity. A pair of aqua eyes filled with fear and terror seemed to appear in front of him. It was like a frightened deer that was running away in a panic. Realizing that he was actually thinking about that woman, Li Xiqing's heart suddenly sank, and he suddenly felt irritated. Impatiently pushing the woman next to him, he growled, "Get out." Before the girl finished saying Li Xiqing, she was suddenly pushed and startled. Not knowing what she had done wrong, she looked at him blankly. Oh Ming looked like he had expected it and smiled proudly. Looking at the girl, he said, "Li Xiqing told you to get out. Didn't you hear him?" Oh Ming was a frequent visitor here, and everyone knew him. When he heard Master O's words, he quickly got up and did not dare to stay any longer. Ha ha ha. I told you, Li Xiqing, face the reality. Oh Ming took a sip of wine and smiled proudly. The aura around Li Xiqing suddenly plummeted, as if he had the attribute of ice and snow, which was frighteningly cold. Everyone who saw this subconsciously did not dare to approach. He's not a good person. Li Xiqing stood up with a cold face and walked out. Ha! You're leaving already? Oh Ming shouted. Li Xiqing did not have any intention of staying, so he suddenly felt a little bored. After leaving the bar, he returned to the house he had bought for Yu Lily. After searching for a long time, he still couldn't find the key, so he simply pressed the doorbell. Yu Lily was sleeping soundly. When she heard the doorbell ring, she quickly got up and opened the door. However, as soon as the door was opened, they were greeted by a tall wall of flesh. The strong smell of alcohol and perfume assaulted their nostrils. Yu Lily frowned in disgust. Thinking that he was drunk, she cursed, "Damn it, Oh Ming, you bitch." Chapter 74. Yu Lily was suddenly picked up. She couldn't help but exclaim and put her hands around his neck. Oh Ming strode forward with his long legs and carried her into the room. He threw her onto the bed with force. Yu Lily bounced twice on the soft bed. Before she could recover, the tall red figure pressed down on her. Oh Ming's actions were as rough and fierce as ever. He grabbed her thin silk pajamas with his big hands and grabbed the mounds in front of her chest. Yu Lily couldn't help but let out a low moan. She quickly reached out to stop him and gasped, "Oh Ming, not today." "Why?" "I'm having sex." Oh Ming was speechless. Oh Ming's anger gradually subsided. He pulled himself up, took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, and lit one. Yu Lily gasped, holding her belly and frowning. "It already hurts, but you are still like a crazy man. Are you a pervert?" When Oh Ming heard that, he clamped a cigarette between his fingers and climbed over to press her down. He blew a puff of smoke into her face. "I'm F*King willing to F*CKU. No matter how anxious I am, I won't touch anyone else." Pfft. Yu Lily smelled the obvious strong perfume on him and snorted. "You don't believe me." "I believe you." This man was very evil. If she said she didn't believe him, he would definitely make her believe him. "That's fine. You just need to know that as long as I am alive, you will always be my woman." Oh Ming sat up and suddenly thought of something. He turned to look at her with a smile. "Do you know Li Xiqing's wife?" "It's none of your business." "What?" Oh Ming raised his eyebrows, put out the cigarette in the ashtray on the bedside table, and threw himself at her again. "It's really none of my business." "Feel it. It hurts." Yu Lily reached out and pinched it twice, looking calm. "Oh, it's quite swollen." "So? You deserve it," Yu Lily said without hesitation. Oh Ming laughed, but he liked this kind of woman. She was so sexy. If Yu Lily was not this kind of woman, he would not bother to date her. "But, was that stupid idea you came up with?" "What idea?" Oh Ming looked at her suspiciously and said lazily, that woman wants to divorce Li Xiqing. Yu Lily was a little surprised, but on second thought, it was not difficult to understand. He shook his head. It wasn't me. You better stay away from that woman. Otherwise, Li Xiqing will say that my woman is a bad influence on his woman. You're afraid of that. What do I have to be afraid of? What I'm most afraid of is you running away with a wild man. When Yu Lily heard this, her heart suddenly tightened. Inexplicably, she became a little nervous. The two of them were very close to each other. How could they hide their reactions from each other? Oh Ming was just joking, but when he noticed Yu Lily's reaction, his originally frivolous and evil eyes suddenly darkened. Are there really wild men? His tone was dangerous. Yu Lily averted her gaze, but she quickly regained her composure. What man could be wilder than you? He had already taken her. Who could be wilder than him? No more, there won't be any more. The European Union snorted coldly and went to take a shower. Four tall and strong men surrounded a woman. Even if she had wings, she could not escape. What do you want? Looking at them, Su Qianxi's heart was racing, but she still pretended to be calm. There are surveillance cameras here. Don't you dare to mess around. Holding his groin, Coach Jean struggled to stand up. Sweating from the pain, he sneered and said in a low voice, "You're in for it later. Take her away." Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, and she quietly reached into her pocket. Chapter 76. Two tall men grabbed her hands and dragged her toward the door. Su Qianxi was scared to death, but she still looked cold and yelled, "Go away. Don't touch me." Suddenly, she felt her phone vibrate in her pocket. Su Qianxi knew that the call had been connected. Kingstown Top Martial Arts School, how can there be scumbags like you? Are you angry that you failed? Su Qianxi's voice was much louder than before. For one, she wanted to warn them. For another, she wanted the person on the other end to hear her. At this time, almost all the people in the martial arts school had left. The ones left were those who had a good relationship with Coach Jean. Some kind-hearted ones just glanced at her and did not pay much attention. Coach Jean sneered and warned in a low voice, "Bitch, you'd better behave. No matter how much you yell, no one will listen to you." Su Qianxi's heart sank. She could see that. This place was a den of snakes and rats. What do you want? Nothing. I took her money, so I'm helping her. Coach Jean rubbed his crotch. The pain was still making him uncomfortable. I wanted to play with you gently, but since you are so stubborn, I will have to use force. Drag her to the third floor. I don't believe I can't handle you. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. She struggled and yelled, "Who sent you here? How much did she pay you? I will pay you double." TSK, you still want to double it? She gave me 1 million. Do you know that? I have never seen so much money in my life. You look so poor, and you want to pay me double? You deserve it for messing with that kind of woman. Su Qianxi had already guessed who it was. Tang Menjing. I don't know, but she is much hotter than you. Covetous, Coach Jean glanced at Su Qianxi's struggling body and said lecherously, "Don't worry. You're not bad either. I'll do it once and take a few pictures. It won't take long." Su Qianxi was dragged into the elevator. It was a yoga room on the third floor, which was surrounded by mirrors. Coach Jean pushed her into a corner and immediately took off his clothes, revealing his powerful muscles. Su Qianxi's face turned pale. Clenching her fists, she couldn't stop shaking and screamed, "Go away. Don't come near me." Under the light, his bronze skin glowed. Licking his lips, Coach Jean lunged at Su Qianxi and tore off her judo robe. Today was the day that big brother Li Beixing returned from the army. Grandfather had specially called to invite the couple to attend the family banquet. The luxurious black Maybach had been waiting at the entrance of the dojo for 10 minutes. Usually, Su Qianxi should be out at this time. Why was she so late today? He looked at his watch. It was already 6:00. He picked up his phone and dialed, but was notified that the line was busy. Chapter 77. Su Qianxi screamed as her robe was torn apart. Coach Jin's powerful body pressed down on her. Go away, go away. Su Qianxi kicked her legs, but he held her down. Sobbing, she yelled, "My husband is Li Xiqing. I can give you money, but you have to let me go." Pfft, I'm O Ming. Coach Jean sneered. You better be a good girl, so I can be gentle. Why are you crying when we're having fun? As he spoke, he bit down on her shoulder. Su Qianxi screamed and suddenly felt her stomach churning. Disgusting, so disgusting. Her stomach twitched, and she threw up on his neck. Coach Jean stiffened and immediately got up, yelling, "Damn it, you bitch. How dare you throw up on me?" As he spoke, he kicked Su Qianxi in the stomach. She felt a tearing pain coming from her lower abdomen. Su Qianxi was spasming in pain, her clothes barely covering her body. Looking up with a pale face, she sneered at him, "Scumbag." Coach Jean was even more furious. He pulled her up and slapped her hard in the face. Su Qianxi was thrown into the air and hit the mirror hard. She was in pain all over her body. However, the most painful part was the cramping in her lower abdomen. So painful, the constant drooping sensation from his lower abdomen was so distinct, so familiar. Su Qianxi's face was pale, and she almost fainted from the pain. Coach Jean, look. She's bleeding. Covered in dirt, Coach Jean was looking for a place to vent his anger. Not hearing what his partner said, he slapped him away and said, F***ck off. I'm going to F***ck her up today. Damn it, it's the first time I've seen such a hot woman. Watch your mouth. Lying on the ground, Su Qianxi could not open her eyes. Staring at Coach Jean, she suddenly stood up and bumped into him. Coach Jean didn't expect the woman to be so bold even though she was almost dead. He groaned and reached out to pull the woman away and throw her down. However, he caught a glimpse of the large pool of blood on the ground. It was a shocking shade of red. Coach Jean was confused and panicked. When did that woman lose so much blood? Should we send her to the hospital? If it continues to flow like this, someone will die. Let's go. Don't kill someone. No. Coach Jean vetoed the idea. If this woman leaks out, how are we supposed to face the world? This woman's heart is also very cruel. She might sue all of us once she's well. Then what should we do? No one knows anyway. Let's go. But what? You want to go to jail? In the end, those people still ran away and walked into the elevator in a panic. The moment the elevator door opened, a cold and noble man appeared inside. Li Xiqing. It was Li Xiqing. What was this man doing here? The four of them were startled, and their backs were drenched in sweat. Glancing at them, Li Xiqing did not care and walked out of the elevator. However, he suddenly remembered something and stopped them. Have you seen a student here named Su Qianxi? Hearing Su Qianxi's name, they were even more scared. One of them asked in a trembling voice, You. What is your relationship with that woman? Chapter 78. Wife. Hearing these two words, the people in the elevator couldn't help but feel weak in the legs. Coach Jean swallowed and pressed the close button with a pale face. The elevator door quickly closed. Seeing this, Li Xiqing vaguely felt that something was wrong and frowned. Clang! There was a sudden loud noise, accompanied by a woman's moan. Help! Su Qianxi's weak voice came into Li Xiqing's ears. It's her. Li Xiqing strode toward the place where the voice came from, feeling inexplicably uneasy. Su Qianxi noticed that the noises around her had quieted down, and her heart was slightly relaxed. Those people had left. They were really gone. However, her body hurt so much, the pain from her lower abdomen was far beyond what she could bear. It was so fierce and intense. She raised her hand weakly, trying to reach for her cell phone in her pocket. However, she could not muster any strength. The phone fell to the ground with a thud. The location was neither too far nor too close, just beside her waist. It was so close, but she felt that the phone was so far away that she could not touch it at all. The screen was still on. Through her blurred vision, she saw 3 words on it: Louis Han. Qian. Louis Han sounded a bit anxious. Don't be afraid. I have already called the police. Soon, Louis Han said something else, but Su Qianxi could not hear it anymore. Was she going to die? Her body hurt so much. Li Xiqing kicked the door of the yoga room and immediately saw the thin figure lying in a pool of blood. At this moment, Su Qianxi's clothes were no longer covering her body. Only half of her Taoist robe was torn, revealing a large area of her porcelain skin. Just under her, there was a large pool of blood, shocking to see. Something seemed to collapse in Li Xiqing's heart. Driven by instinct, he strode over and squatted down to check on her. Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi's face was as pale as a piece of paper. Her breathing was short, her eyes were closed, and her eyelashes were trembling. Cold sweat had covered her body and face. Li Xiqing's eyes, which had always been as calm as a mirror, were caught off guard by the tragic scene in front of him and stirred up layers of waves. Su Qianxi, wake up. He helped her up and patted her face. She pressed her hands against her lower abdomen, and tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes. She was in so much pain that she cried softly. Her lips trembled silently, but it made people's hearts tremble. Su Qianxi was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Vaguely, there seemed to be a subtle sound in her ears, and a cold touch gently patted her face. He raised his eyelids with difficulty, and vaguely, he seemed to see that person. Xiqing. Su Qianxi's voice was as low as a mosquito. Don't be afraid, I'll take you to the hospital right away. His voice was as cold and hard as ever, but she didn't know if it was her imagination or if it was real, but she actually heard a bit of fear. He was afraid. What was he afraid of? Afraid that she would die. Su Qianxi was amused by her own thought, feeling sad and sad. What was there for him to be afraid of? No, he had never been afraid of anything. He had been like that in her previous lifetime, and this lifetime was no exception. If possible, she really wanted to see the weakness of this man with her own eyes. Chapter 79. The blood on her lower body stung his eyes and disturbed his heart. 2 words came out of his mind: miscarriage. Frightened, he took off his suit and covered her body with it. He bent down and carried her up. His eyes fell on the bright screen of her cell phone. Louis Han. When she was most desperate and helpless, the first person she called was Louis Han. Grabbing the cell phone on the ground, he rushed downstairs with her in his arms as fast as he could, his mind blank. He did not want to think. He did not want to think. Why did she call Louis Han instead of him at this critical moment? Why did she get pregnant after taking birth control pills? However, his heart felt like it was being grabbed by a little ghost. It was so uncomfortable and suffocating. Going downstairs, he saw 2 police cars parked at the door, arresting the people he had just met in the elevator. However, one was missing. The leader wasn't there. The ambulance just arrived. Li Xiqing did not know how he got on the ambulance. After arriving at the hospital, the words of the female doctor echoed in his mind, "The fetus is less than a month old. The pregnant woman has lost too much blood and must have a uterine decontamination operation." "Who are you to her?" "I am her husband." "Okay, sign here and pay the fee." The pregnant woman cannot afford to wait. Li Xiqing signed in a daze and asked blankly, "She took birth control pills." "Why, birth control pills?" The female doctor's voice was a bit sharp. "Taking pills is the most unsafe. If the contraception is not successful, it is most likely to cause ectopic pregnancy and deformity. Will you die if you wear a condom? All men are the same." Seeing that Li Xiqing was still standing there blankly, he roared, "What are you doing standing there? Go and pay up." Li Xiqing nodded and quickly turned around to find the cashier. Cheng Yu, Li Xiqing's assistant, who heard the news and came in a hurry, was petrified. What? Was this their tall and aloof CEO? Now, he was yelled at by the doctor, and he was not angry. The world was really crazy. Seeing him covered in blood, Cheng Yu felt a bit sorry and went up to take the bill. "Boss, let me go." When Louis Han arrived at the hospital, he found Li Xiqing sitting in front of the emergency room in a daze. "Mr. Li," hearing this voice, Li Xiqing subconsciously looked over. When he saw him, his eyes suddenly froze, and the atmosphere around him suddenly became cold. Louis Han was shocked to see the blood on him. "Qian, she, inside." Li Xiqing leaned back in his chair, looking cold and elegant. "I caught those murderers, but one of them escaped. They said that the one who escaped was the mastermind." Li Xiqing's eyes lit up and he asked, "Where are they?" "The culprits who almost killed Su Qianxi." Louis Han was frightened by his imposing manner and said blankly, "In the police station." Before Li Xiqing could speak again, the door of the emergency room was opened. Chapter 80. Hearing that, Li Xiqing felt like something was stuck in his heart. Even she did not know that she was pregnant. Perhaps, even she did not think that the pill would work. Those bastards. After the doctor left, Li Xiqing and Louis Han walked into the ICU. Su Qianxi had fallen asleep. Her face was as pale as a piece of white paper, without any color. His hands were tightly gripping the sheets beneath him, and there was cold sweat on his forehead. It was just like a little white flower that had withered. Li Xiqing took a deep look at the girl on the bed, turned around, and left. Louis Han was dumbfounded. "Hey, where are you going?" However, no one responded. Coach Jean had never been as embarrassed as he was today. He heard that the other 3 had been taken to the police station and had not been dealt with yet. However, no one who had offended Li Xiqing had a good ending. Not a single one. Holding his duffel bag, Coach Jean looked around anxiously. Looking up at the clock, he saw it was already 10 p.m. Soon, the train was coming. As long as he got on the train, he could escape. His cell phone vibrated in his pocket. It was his home number. Coach Jean quickly answered, "Hello. Child's father, where are you?" The woman on the other side of the phone was crying. Next to her, there was the sound of a 3 or 4-year-old child crying. Coach Jin's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly had an idea. Li Xiqing was targeting his family. "Ah, what are you doing?" No. His wife screamed, sounding very sad. Coach Jin's legs softened and he almost knelt down. With red eyes, he yelled, "What's wrong? Did those bastards come for you?" However, it wasn't his wife's voice that responded. Instead, it was a cold and noble male voice. ****. Hearing that voice, Coach Jin's heart almost jumped out of his throat. Unable to stand it any longer, he fell to the ground. "You killed my child. Now I'll let you have a taste of that. How about that?" A bone-chilling voice came through the microphone, making Coach Jin shiver uncontrollably. "Don't kill me. Dad, help me." The crying of the child made Coach Jin cry as well. "Li Siqing, don't hurt my family. What's the point of threatening me with someone else's wife and child? Come and catch me if you dare." Li Siqing did not seem to care at all. Glancing at the two people who were held by the bodyguards, they were safe and sound. "Whether it's a threat or not, it's up to you. I'll wait for you at your house." Coach Jin felt like he had lost all his strength. She did not expect him to be so despicable. But, so what? No matter how important his wife and children were, he could just marry another woman and have another child. He only had one life. Moreover, he hadn't even finished spending the 1 million yuan. It wasn't easy to get so much money, so he had to spend it back. Coach Jin gritted his teeth and finally got on the train. However, he didn't expect that he would be surrounded by several tall and strong men in black as soon as he got on the car and pushed off the car. Coach Jin was shocked. "What are you doing? Go." As he spoke, a cloth bag was placed over his head. A few people lifted him up and walked towards the train outside the station. Coach Jin struggled with all his might. After about half an hour, he was finally carried off the bus. Chapter 81. Coach Jin's face was so pale that he was sweating. Someone kicked him hard from behind, and he fell to his knees with a thud. He wanted to get up, but was held down by the bodyguards behind him. A chill suddenly rose from his back, penetrated his spine, and reached the tip of his heart. Looking at the man in front of him, Coach Jin could not help feeling weak in the knees. Li Siqing's facial features were exquisite. He had not changed out of his blood-stained clothes. Although he was in a mess, he did not look disheveled at all. Under the dim light, he was sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed, leaning against the wall. With a cigarette between his long fingers, he squinted his eyes and looked down at Coach Jin. It was as if there was a bone-chilling icicle in his eyes, making Coach Jin shiver. His aura was so powerful. Coach Jin had seen a lot of masters in the boxing world, but none of them could make him feel like this. With just one look, he felt like he had nowhere to hide. Just a single glance was enough to make him want to flee. But before he could get up, he was ruthlessly kicked by the experts behind him, causing him to kneel on the ground. Then, his palm was firmly stepped on by a military boot. Ouch! The pain made him scream. Wait, military boot. Coach Jin's heart skipped a beat. He looked around and found that the people who brought him here all looked serious and had an extraordinary aura. They were not ordinary bodyguards or hooligans. They were soldiers. Coach Jin then realized what kind of person he had messed with. Suddenly looking up at Li Siqing, he found that Li Siqing's face was still calm. Sensing the fear in Li Siqing's eyes, Coach Jin finally looked down. Where did you catch him just now? Mr. Li, on the train. On the train? Yes, he wanted to escape. Li Siqing looked calm. Slowly blowing out a mouthful of smoke, he asked in a low voice, You don't even want your wife and children? Coach Jin was too scared to speak and lowered his head. I'm asking you a question. You don't want your wife and children, do you? A soldier next to him kicked him hard. His military boots stepped on his back, and Coach Jean screamed in pain. It seems that you really don't want it. Li Xiqing put out the cigarette and narrowed his eyes. But what should I do? He stood up from the sofa, signaled the man on his back to move away, and helped Coach Jean up. Coach Jean breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that this man was not as scary as he had imagined. His tense mood immediately relaxed. Panting slightly, he asked, "What do you mean?" Li Xiqing chuckled, and so did Coach Jean. However, a strong gust of wind swept over. With a scream, Coach Jean was almost blown away. The sudden punch startled everyone. Bang! His body hit the ground hard, and the sound of bones breaking came from Coach Jin's body. Li Xiqing's body was like a cheetah. He jumped up and his fists fell like thunder. Every time he lifted his fist, there was a patch of green and purple on the ground. The people around him were alarmed and quickly went up to push him away. What a joke! If they continued to fight like this, someone would die. Coach Jean was beaten half to death. He spat out a mouthful of blood along with a few bloody teeth. No one is allowed to touch my wife and children. Since you have touched them, don't even think about keeping your hands. Chapter 82. Coach Jin's face was covered in blood. He struggled to get up from the ground and begged weakly, "Mr. Li, please forgive me. I have a wife and children to support. This family needs me." Li Xiqing's eyes were cold. You abandoned your family and children for $1 million. Why do you think I will believe you? Coach Jean was even more shocked. From the beginning until now, he had never mentioned the $1 million. How did Li Xiqing know about it? Who asked you to do this to her? I don't know. Yesterday, someone suddenly called me and asked me to gang rape Su Qianxi. However, before he finished, Li Xiqing looked angry and clenched his fists. Coach Jean screamed in fear and stepped back as fast as he could. A man next to Li Xiqing pulled him back and said, "Go on. He asked me to gang rape Su Qianxi and gave me $5 million after it was done. He gave me $1 million as a deposit, but I don't know who it is. He knows my account number, my name, and everything I have done before. I can't not do it." Coach Jean was a man, but he begged and cried. A woman. A man. He sounds young, maybe in his 20s or 30s. When she walked in, all the eyes in the room fell on her. Even though she was a smart and capable assistant, Qingyu still felt a little scared. Under pressure, she handed the information to Li Xiqing and said, "I found it. The account that transferred $1 million to Jin Xiong is in a small city in T province, more than 20 hours drive from Kingstown. However, the number in his call records shows that the owner of the phone is a blind man in his 70s or 80s. His phone was stolen yesterday, but it came back inexplicably today." Coach Jin's hair stood on end. Not only did he provoke such a big shot in one day, but he was also involved in such a terrible thing. How unlucky could he be in his previous life? Ha! Li Xiqing laughed when he heard this. It was just that this laughter was extremely cold, extremely cold. He looked up and stared at Coach Jean with his sharp eyes. He asked word by word, "So, you can't find any clues?" He stared at Coach Jean, but his words were directed at Qingyu. Qingyu felt a bit scared. Although she had long been used to her boss's mood swings, it was the first time she had faced him with such extreme emotions. Not really. There will be a breakthrough, but not yet. Seeing Li Xiqing walking to Coach Jean, Qingyu's voice became lower and lower. Li Xiqing looked down at him and said word by word, "Have you ever felt despair?" What? bring him to the port. I'll sail the boat myself. The tough guy next to Li Xiqing shuddered and hesitated. Mr. Li, are we really going to do this? What do you think? Li Xiqing's voice was calm, but his words were full of killing intent. Yes. Half an hour later, in a mysterious private sea. Coach Jean was tied to his waist by a rope, and the other end of the rope was tied to the stern of the yacht. Li Xiqing threw a piece of fresh meat into the sea. Soon, the shark's dorsal fin appeared on the calm sea. Coach Jin's heart sank as he recalled what Li Xiqing had just said. Have you ever felt despair? Chapter 83. Her pale and powerless hands clutched the sheets beneath her tightly. Su Qianxi was soaked in cold sweat. There seemed to be waves of pain coming from his lower abdomen. Something was quietly slipping away, soundless. This feeling made her feel both familiar and hopeless. In his ears, it was as if every single sentence everyone had said back then was still echoing. Bitch, you fell down the stairs and blamed it on Menjing. Do you think people will believe that? What a sin. The 2-month-old baby already has a heartbeat, and she has such a mother. Su Qianxi, I did not expect you to be so vicious. In order to frame Menjing, you even gave up your own baby. Everyone pointed at her and looked at her with disdain and disgust. Grandpa was disappointed in her, her mother-in-law hated her, and even her father-in-law gave her the cold shoulder. The Su family came to scold her every day. No one knew that it was Tang Menjing who pushed her down. No one believed that it was Tang Menjing who pushed her down. No one, you deserve it. You deserve it. Brother Xiqing is mine. He's mine. Tang Menjing smiled proudly. Standing in the abandoned warehouse, holding Li Xiqing's arm, she was in a coma. Suddenly, Li Xiqing opened his eyes, looked at Su Qianxi, and said coldly, disgusting. Disgusting, disgusting, Su Qianxi, you are so disgusting. Su Qianxi's heart was squeezed. Staring at the couple, she subconsciously wanted to run away. However, she couldn't move and couldn't make a sound. She watched as more and more people surrounded her. Scolding, disdain, all the voices gathered together and said one word in unison, disgusting, 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 disgusting. No, it's not me, not me. Li Xiqing was sleeping on the edge of the bed when he suddenly heard a weak cry. Desperate and helpless. He reached out and grabbed her waving little hands, but as soon as she touched those hands, it was like grasping a life-saving straw, and she held them tightly in her palms. It's okay, it's okay. Li Xiqing held her hands and comforted her. His other hand reached out to wipe the sweat off her forehead. His movements were unbelievably gentle. Even he didn't think that his natural movements could be so smooth. Su Qianxi's face was full of tears. Her eyelids trembled a few times before she opened them. At a glance, he saw Li Xiqing's big hand. There were some calluses on his rough palms. The surrounding light was a little dim. Judging from the time, it was about 4 or 5 in the morning. The hand was moved away, revealing the cold and determined face behind it. The lights in the room were not turned on, and the light was dim and weak. But this man, just by sitting there, was enough to steal all of her attention. You're awake. Li Xiqing saw her spacing out. Do you want some water? She looked at him, a bit dazed. A familiar face, a familiar coldness. However, the tone and expression were unfamiliar. Who was this? Li Xiqing. She must be dreaming. How could he speak to her so gently? Moreover, how could he be by her side at this time? Seeing that she did not respond, he got her a glass of warm water and put it on the table. Chapter 84. Su Qianxi looked at him dumbfoundedly, like a puppet. He frowned, wondering if she had lost her mind. The person in front of him suddenly reached out a hand and touched his face. The cool touch, the delicate and smooth skin, and the exquisite features were right in front of her. So real, so close, it was real, she was not dreaming. It was really Li Xiqing. However, didn't he hate her? Didn't he disgust her? Why? Su Qianxi was dazed and subconsciously touched her lower abdomen. Li Xiqing saw her movement and frowned. Who told you? Didn't they agree not to tell her? Who was so talkative? Drink water. He sat on the edge of the bed and helped her up. His tone was firm. Su Qianxi took the warm water and took 2 sips. However, her heart was trembling more and more. It was incredibly sour and painful. Tears, like the collapse of glands falling down. He took the cup in her hand and held her in his arms. At the moment she leaned in, he clearly felt that something was quietly tightening and expanding in his heart. Su Qianxi still could not help crying on his chest. Her shoulders trembling, she put her hands on his shoulders and hugged him tightly. Child, our child is gone, his heart skipping a beat, he tightened his arms around her. Gently patting her back, he whispered, don't cry. We are still young. We can have another child. Su Qianxi heard this and cried even harder. It was true that they were young, but it was impossible for them to be young again. Never again, he hated her so much. How could he have a child with her? He wanted her to stay away from him so that he could be with Tang Menjing. However, at this moment, she really wanted to believe it. She wanted to believe that he was really hugging her, and not just pretending to comfort her. She wanted to believe that he did not hate her. So be it, let time stop at this moment. Li Xiqing patted her back gently, his mind in a mess. Don't cry. Su Qianxi could not hold back her tears, but she suppressed her crying a little. Looking up, she looked at his handsome profile. He also looked down at her and said coldly, you won't look pretty if you keep crying. Your eyes are swollen. You said I'm pretty. Su Qianxi was dazed. Seeing that she really stopped crying, he felt a bit relieved and nodded. Okay. Su Qianxi felt like she had seen a ghost, looking at him. He had never said that he was good-looking. The word that he used to praise her the most was probably ugly. Was she really dreaming? There was not a single ray of light in the dim surroundings. Sure enough, no matter how real it felt, it was just a dream. She actually, naively thought that it was really Li Xiqing, really him. Chuckling bitterly, he felt a little regretful. However, since it was a dream, could she do what she had always wanted to do but did not dare to do? She hugged his waist tightly and whispered, Li Xiqing. Su Qianxi looked up, put her other hand on his head, and pressed him down. Chapter 85. Her pink lips were as sweet as jelly. As soon as he touched them, Li Xiqing felt like he had been electrocuted. His heart raced uncontrollably. It was not the first time. He had kissed her several times before. But why didn't he feel like this the past few times? Throbbing, seductive, Li Xiqing's eyes suddenly darkened, and his arms holding her slightly tightened. She did not notice his stiffness. Closing her eyes, she stuck out her tongue and licked his lips. Gently, softly, timidly, and contented. That was enough. That was enough. That was enough. She would pretend that it was real. She did not know that the man in front of her was so aroused that he simply took the initiative. Su Qianxi was shocked and looked at him blankly. He moved. Freeze. Stop right there. However, it did not work. Li Xiqing clamped her with both hands and crazily kissed her. His long tongue hooked and kissed her, penetrating her lips and teeth easily. With a bit of thirst and desire, he mercilessly conquered her. Su Qianxi's eyes widened, but her heartbeat sped up. A lot, was this real? Wasn't this a dream? God, she actually kissed him. However, why was he not angry? Why was he kissing her? Su Qianxi had a crazy guess in her mind, but she quickly denied it. It's impossible. Noticing her absent-mindedness, Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. He let go of her and whispered, "Close your eyes." His voice was cold and brooding. Su Qianxi was dumbfounded. Being yelled at like that, she suddenly blushed. Ah! It was actually real. He was really real. Was it not a dream? No way. She was not dreaming, was she? Su Qianxi's heart trembled, and she could not believe it. Her breathing became more rapid, and her eyes became redder. Her hands slowly moved up, climbing up his back, climbing up his hands. Feeling her obedience, Li Xiqing felt a desire from his tailbone to his lower abdomen and the bottom of his heart. I want her. Li Xiqing was startled by his crazy idea. Subconsciously, he warned himself to retreat, but he could not stop. Cough, cough. The sudden cough made Su Qianxi's body stiffen, and she immediately pushed him away. Turning around, Su Qianxi saw Qin Shuhua standing at the door with a mischievous smile on her face. Su Qianxi is still very weak. Kid, are you that impatient? Although she knew that Su Qianxi was joking, she still couldn't help blushing and quietly looked up at him. She found that his expression was still the same, but there was an obvious blush on his face. Li Xiqing exhaled and stood up abruptly. Su Qianxi clearly saw the dried blood on his body and was a bit dazed. I'm going to work. Mom, I'll leave Qianxi to you. Qin Shuhua smiled suggestively and nodded. Go ahead. I will return you a beautiful wife. Li Xiqing's face was even redder, and he walked faster out of the ward. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.